Have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Ms. Kistler, this is your son.
Yes, ma'am.
You have 2 children.
Correct.
And this is your former husband.
Correct.
This son managed to accumulate a whole bunch of tickets.
Correct.
He was in your physical custody at the time he got those tickets.
Correct.
You paid those tickets to clear up his record, and
Correct.
you believe your former husband should be responsible for half of those tickets.
I do.
Mr. Kistler says that it's owing to your own actions that he got those tickets to begin with, and if you chose to pay them, because you chose to be an indulgent parent, that's not his problem.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been divorced?
7 years.
And how old are you?
18.
How old were you when you got all these tickets?
About 16.
Stand up with your mother. What kind of tickets were they?
They were reckless driving and careless driving.
Well, that's not funny. Did they take your license away?
No, they did not.
Why not?
Because
Where do you live? In what jurisdiction do you live?
Lake Orion?
In California?
No, Michigan.
Michigan? Yes. I thought they were smarter in Michigan. You mean you have a conviction for reckless driving when you're 16 years old and they don't take away your license?
Negative. Wasn't conviction for it. The situation at hand was he was with his friends in our subdivision, which is all dirt road. It's a kind of a cottage community. And between running around with their four-wheelers, kids were coming home from school. One of the parents felt the boys were reckless. He had like 4 or 5 other buddies with him. The officer gave him a ticket for reckless on someone else's say-so, having not witnessed anything.
Did you pay the ticket?
Oh, yes, ma'am. We went to court.
Listen to me.
No, the ticket itself was not paid.
I'm speaking. When I speak, don't.
Okay.
Did you pay the ticket?
It was dropped to a careless.
It was dropped to careless driving, which
Right.
means he pled, listen to me, which means he pled guilty to careless driving.
Correct.
Right? Yes. Yeah, you wouldn't have pled guilty to careless driving if you weren't driving carelessly. Is that right?
Yes.
Perfect.
There was less points.
Oh, I'm getting your picture.
Yeah, it went from a...
No, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. And you honestly believe that
I
it
paid
was
it because
unjust?
I paid it, Your Honor, because I checked with Oakland County courts in regards to my son, because of his age, my responsibility.
That's not what I asked you.
And I said, what happens if it's not paid?
No, just listen to me.
Well, it was cheaper to pay the tickets.
I'm still talking.
Yes, ma'am.
You thought that you would pay it, even though you felt as if, according to what you started to say to me, that the sheriff was called on somebody else's say-so who didn't even see him,
Right.
So they really weren't doing anything that wrong. They were just some guys sort of fooling around.
I questioned which boy it was. The man said
You
he
questioned
knows.
which boy it was.
Right, there was
right.
5
All
boys.
right, now well, let's get to the other tickets that he got.
Okay.
What's your first name?
Eric.
What other tickets did you get, Eric?
I've had a couple since I've had my license.
What tickets were they?
Unsafe start when I first got my license.
But you didn't pay it.
No, that it was dropped.
Give me the month of that ticket. Give me as a matter of fact, Miss Kistler, give me the month of the first ticket. Put them in chronological order.
Yeah, this first one, it was unsafe in town.
Just a second.
Yes, sir.
That's the first one. Can I see that, please, Bert? Because she mumbles when she tells me
Sorry,
what the
first
charge
one,
was.
sorry.
No, I just want that one.
Just that one.
Thank you. Unsafe start. This ticket was dismissed. The officer was a no-show. And this was March 2nd, 2004. So you went to court on that, and the officer was a no-show, so that case was dismissed.
Correct.
When was the next ticket?
The next ticket was actually considered a trespassing one.
May I see it, please?
Certainly.
Well, this wasn't a parking ticket. This was a crime he committed.
Right. They were
Right.
just tickets.
This
Correct.
was not a ticket. This was a crime. He was arrested for trespassing. Where did you trespass, Eric?
No, I was not arrested for it. I was with my friends. My one friend knew of an abandoned cottage, I guess you could say. We went to that. The police showed up. They did not give us any tickets.
Eric! You were arrested for trespass.
I was not arrested, no.
That's what it says here. You mean the police were lying when they said the crime was trespass. There was a plea and a fine. That means you pled guilty to something and you were paid a fine.
Yeah.
There was no
Okay.
arrest, ma'am. We found out
Ms.
about...
Kistler, there has to be an arrest, madam, in order for there to be a conviction. That's how the criminal justice system works.
And I can
They
respect
may not have
that.
put him in jail, but there has to be a charge. If there is a charge, there has to be an arrest, either an arrest or some sort of process that brings the case to court. Now, let me see the third one.
Would you like to know how we found out about the trespassing issue?
No, this was September of '04, but the offense was August of '04, and the offense was speeding. Let's have the next one.
This was a double. These were all the ones that we went to court on.
And he's got one in December Of 04.
Well, before
that
December,
one-
we had one in September when he went to a Lions game. They had a sting. He had apparently taken his seatbelt off, and they had caught him on that, and that was part of one of the bigger issues we had.
So this was their fault because they had a sting with regards
Yes.
to not wearing a seatbelt.
Right, we have a seatbelt law, and then they put little stings in little areas.
Driving while license was suspended.
That was the second part to that one because that was paid for. They said because the ticket wasn't paid for immediately at a certain time, I said it was already in the mail. And you'll see a copy of that check that was written on that. What they do is they automatically send it up to the state to suspend your license without us. The other part you'll find there is a notice.
You know, your son is a real victim. Your whole family a victim.
It's not about being a victim.
Look at all the times he was a victim so far. 5, 6 times he's been a victim.
No, it's part
I've
of
been
own
in this
responsibility.
earth for a very long time. I don't think that I was ever a victim as many times as poor Eric. How about you, Bird? Were you ever a victim as many times as poor Eric?
Not really.
Not really. Poor Eric has been a big victim. He's just like an accident looking to happen.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I can tell he's a wise.
Claims ex-husband James Kistler owes for his share of their son's traffic tickets and court fines. James says it's Leslie's fault for allowing their son to have a license.
Well, all told, these misunderstandings that your son has amounted to $1,642.30.
Because the one
And
ticket
you
for
also
reckless.
want your ex-husband to pay for lost wages.
Correct, ma'am.
According to you, lost wages for what?
Well, my husband did not support my son in these adventures, and he did not go to court. He was never there. I had to take off work to go there. Regardless, like my
The
previous
first time
statement
that he,
was,
the
they
first
told
time,
me
I
I'm
got it. So you
accountable.
want him to because he failed to cooperate.
Well, I expect him to
Now
be
I
supportive
want
of
you,
our
Mr.
son,
Kessler, to
regardless
tell-
of his ignorance of 16, 17 years old. Yes.
Let me tell you something. He wouldn't have had keys to a car after March of 2004.
He had the keys because he was going to a school 10
I
miles
don't care.
away.
I don't care if he walked like Abe Lincoln. I don't care if he walked like Lincoln to school, 5 miles. As soon as he got his first ticket when he's 16 for unsafe start, whatever happened to that, he's a wise guy. You don't get it. I can tell he's a wise guy. I've been involved with kids like that for a long time. He's not a bad kid. He's a wise guy, and he's got you like this.
Okay.
Just like this, because it's always somebody else's fault. It's the police fault. It's because the ticket crossed in the mail. They got him on a sting for seatbelts. That's not a sting. There's a law. You wear a seatbelt. If you don't wear a seatbelt, you get a ticket. It's not the police's fault that they did a sting. It was his fault because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt.
I'm not saying he's not at fault. He's not saying he was a victim. He knows he was guilty for doing that. We have the proof, obviously, what I've given you.
Well, what I'm saying to you is I'm going to listen to your husband, and your husband's going to say to me, what?
That,
First, Eric was living with you.
yes, ma'am.
When did he stop living with you?
I believe it was in May of 2003, I think.
Why?
We were not getting along.
Where's your other son?
I've got a daughter.
Where's your other daughter?
Lives with my ex-wife.
How long had your son been living with you?
Probably about a year or so.
Why did he leave his mother's house?
Probably because my daughter was with her and just to kind of keep peace.
So he went back to his mother.
Yes.
Did he have a driver's license when he lived with you?
No.
Why not?
I had him signed up to go to driver's ed. I told him he had to maintain a grade average in school.
Which was?
C or better.
C.
Yes, ma'am.
Pretty liberal. What happened?
That didn't happen. And so he didn't get driver's training.
Is that right?
Yes.
When did that happen that your father said you're not getting driver's training?
It was about 9th grade, 2003.
And when did you go and live with your mother?
9th grade, 2003. But that's not because of that, no.
No.
Don't
Did your
give
mother
him
let you go?
much
Shh,
credit.
quiet. Did you go to driver's training?
Yes.
When?
10th grade.
What was your grade point average?
Didn't really pay attention to it.
Do you know what his grade point average was?
I don't know what it was. I know it wasn't good.
Okay, sir. I want you to explain why you believe, since you have joint legal custody of your son, why you shouldn't be responsible for half these tickets. Forget about the lost wages of your former wife. That's her problem.
I just simply feel that he didn't deserve a license. I mean, if he would have been in school and all that, that's one thing.
But he wasn't in school?
No.
Yes, he was.
Plus, when he went back to live with her, he still did not deserve a license. I found all this out after the fact, and I just don't feel I should be held accountable.
Did you stay in regular mainstream high school?
For a little while, yeah.
Did you graduate from mainstream high school?
No.
When did you leave mainstream high school?
Around 11th grade.
What were your grades?
C's, some lower, some higher.
If that's C average?
Yeah.
It's very easy to find out. Eric, did you maintain a C average?
Yes.
But you didn't maintain a C average when you were with your father.
No.
Are you telling me that you did better when you lived with your mother and that you dropped out of school? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
Believe what you want.
I don't believe it. Why would your mother let you drop out of school?
She can't stop me from what I want to do, for one. Second of all, My grades started to drop, and I didn't like where I was living, so I stopped, and then I went to an alternative high school right after.
What do you mean you didn't like where you were living? You mean with your mother?
No, I didn't like the area. I love living with my mom. I didn't like the area.
Didn't like the area where your mother lived. So where did you go to live?
I stayed with my mom, because my only other option would be with my dad, and I'd rather stay with my mom.
So you didn't like the area where you were living, so you dropped out of school?
Pretty much.
What?
Pretty much.
Leslie Kistler claims ex-husband James Kistler owes for his share of their son's traffic tickets and court fines. James says it's Leslie's fault for allowing their son to have a license.
Ms. Kistler, you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Pay the tickets.
I did.
You indulged him, and if you continue to indulge Mr. Smart Aleck,
Would you like to know
you're
where
going to
he's
be a
going?
very, very unhappy lady because you're going to be bailing him out forever.
Your Honor.
I'm speaking.
Yes,
a young
you're
man,
going ahead.
a young man who is amassed this kind of record by the time he's 17 years old, with a mother who makes excuses, because that's what you've done since you came in.
Okay.
You've made excuses for his behavior. Is destined for failure.
He's paying me back.
Oh, destined for failure.
Yes,
paying
I
me
didn't know
back.
the Navy was destined for
He's
failure.
gone into
Listen-
the service, Your Honor.
Listen to me, that's
how he's
wonderful.
paying
If you've
me
gone
back.
into the service, young man, you get paid?
Yeah.
Pay your mother back
Yeah.
for the tickets. Goodbye.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Farron-Krug versus Johnson. Step forward.
Teresa Farron-Krug is suing her foster daughter, 21-year-old Laura Johnson, for car repair costs and outstanding parking tickets. Laura says Teresa should be suing her brother, Ron.
Miss Farron-Krug, you are a very nice lady.
Thank you.
Because according to the complaint that I read, the facts in this case are really not much in dispute. You took Miss Johnson into your home and became her guardian.
Yes.
She didn't have a family that could do that, and she was a teenager at the time.
Yes.
Is she a friend of one of your children?
My daughter, yes.
And she treated you very well?
Yes, she did.
And there came a time when you co-signed a loan for Miss Johnson for a car.
Yes.
Miss Johnson was working at the time?
She had two jobs. She was very responsible.
And it sounds to me as if she did responsible things. She made the payments on the car
Yes.
for a substantial period of time. And then when she moved out, she called you and told you that she had turned the car over to her brother.
Yes.
Traded cars with him. I gather you weren't thrilled about that, but it
No.
was already done.
Yes.
While brother over here had the car, he got himself into an accident and got some parking tickets and did a whole bunch of other things. And you opened up an account for him so that he could have the car fixed.
The tires and the rims.
Tires and the rims or whatever. And then he stopped making payments on the car, and you contacted Miss Johnson. You said, you better come home and straighten out this thing with the car because he's not making payments. So she came home. And she took the car back from him, right?
Yes, I did.
And she caught up with the payments.
Yes.
So the payments aren't a problem. She now has the car. All the payments are caught up on. But he hasn't paid the bill for the tires and the rims and the parking tickets that you...
And the repair bills.
And
Because he
the
left the
repair
car
bills.
at the dealer and never picked it up.
Everything. And you want Miss Johnson to take care of that.
She told me she would take care of everything, help me out and take care of what she could.
Well, that's not a contract. But I have to talk to him. Get up. What's your name?
Ron Johnson.
Do you owe her money?
Yeah.
Why don't you pay her?
We got into an argument. Some things, lines of communication fell through, and just didn't
There's a
happen.
very easy line of communication. It's called the U.S. Postal Service. All you need is a stamp, and you can send a money order, or you can send a check.
Yeah.
Where do you live now?
In Auburn.
What are you looking over there for?
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's your address?
You want me to get my address out on TV?
Yes.
Actually, I just moved to a new place, so I don't actually know it.
Where does your brother live, Miss Johnson?
I just know he lives in Auburn, Washington. I don't know exactly where because he just moved and
Where does he work?
he works for a construction
For whom?
place. Terry. His name is Terry.
Terry what?
I don't know the last name.
You have a telephone number for him at work?
No, I don't.
You have a cell phone number for him?
He doesn't have a cell phone.
Well, how do you get in touch with him if you need a kidney?
I just leave a message at the house he's staying at, and
What's the telephone number?
it's 07.
And who does he live with?
I believe one of his friends at their parents' house.
What's the parent's name? Speak up, sir. Parent's name.
That's what you're talking to her. I'm renting a room from a lady.
Give me their name.
Shirley. I don't know her last name.
You're being slick with me. What's
I'm
your
sorry.
social security number? Take out your wallet. Take out your driver's license. Bird, would you get his driver's license, please? Thank you. You want this back?
Yeah.
You tell me where you're living because you have to notify the Department of Motor Vehicles when you've changed addresses. Where are you living now?
In Auburn.
With whom?
With Shirley. I don't know her last name. I just met her.
Well,
and
when you
moved in.
figure it out, sir, you can get your driver's license back. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You owe her some money, and she has to know where to serve you with papers, and she has to know where you work, so that if she gets a judgment against you, she can get a lien. Who do you work for?
Terry.
What's the name of the company?
Construction.
Are you paid in check or cash?
Check.
Where do you do your banking? Is not an answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bank of America.
What branch? I'm getting all the information for you.
But my concern is that Laura told me she would make all the payments on the repairs and everything before I even let her.
No, she didn't. What she said to you was she would pay what she could, and she's not responsible for it. He is. You made an agreement with him, not with her. With her, you had an agreement with regard to car payments. She's made those car payments. Her brother, who was a bit of a bum, did not take care of his responsibility. But I'm going to get you all the information that you need in order to sue him and in order to collect the judgment, because if Mr. Is that his last name? Who paid? Stop playing with that. He wants his driver's license back really badly. If Mr. who pays him by check doesn't want trouble, he will take out the money that he owes you from his check, because he's paid by check. And now we have his Social Security number. Case is dismissed as against Miss Johnson. You now have all the information that you need to file against him. You can use his work site as a place where you can serve him with a summons. Thank you very much. Your granddaughter, and
Yes,
the co-defendant is her husband. And it is your claim that several years ago they asked you to co-sign a car loan for them. You did that, and over the course of the several years that they had the car, they did not make all the payments. You made a lot of the payments. They were in some financial difficulty. Ultimately, the car was repossessed, and there was a payout that you made in order to ensure that your credit remained intact, and you want your granddaughter and her husband to take responsibility for that.
Yes, Your Honor.
And their defense is that this car was a gift. Your granddaughter says that the whole reason behind this lawsuit is because you want custody of her older child, not her husband's child, but her older child, who, according to you, you raised for a considerable period of time, and you don't believe that they are taking proper care of him.
Yes, ma'am.
It's my own interest. Our son's name is Teddy, according to your complaint. When was Teddy in your custody?
Well, I had him every weekend, and I had him all summer.
Why?
Well, my mother had helped her raise him while she was alive. And when she passed away, I told her I would make sure he was taken care of right.
How long have the two of you been married?
6 years in August.
You have children together?
Yes, ma'am. 3 boys.
Plus Teddy, he makes 4.
What do you do for a living?
Construction worker.
And you?
Housewife.
You make a good living?
Sometimes.
You have a lot of children to take care of.
Yes.
How do you support them?
They have everything they need, Your Honor. I mean, they get some stuff they don't need, and some stuff they want they don't get. But there's always food. They have clothes.
They have the necessities. They don't have...
They don't have some of the luxuries, but they have the necessities they need to live.
How old are the 3 youngest children?
9 months, 3, and 6. And Teddy is 8.
What kind of car was purchased that's the subject of this case?
A Grand Prix.
Who found the car?
We did together.
Who?
Me and my grandmother.
What about your husband?
He wasn't there.
Did you show it to your husband?
No, she didn't want his name on the car.
They had had one before, and he wrecked it. She bought it out of a settlement, and he wrecked it, totaled it out. No insurance.
So your grandmother didn't want his name on the car?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much was it?
I think it was like $9,000.
$9,999.
Were you working at the time?
Yes, I was.
What were you doing?
Medical billing.
Who are you?
I'm her son.
You have something urgently important to say right now while I'm getting information?
My girlfriend was the one that got her the job, and she had quit in like 2 months.
I didn't get there yet.
Okay.
Why don't you just relax?
Okay.
Okay, so you went looking with your grandmother, and your grandmother said, I don't want his name on the car.
Right.
And I'm going to buy you a present.
The car was actually to be paid for outright cash out of an I-bond that was left by my grandmother, and she couldn't cash the I-bond in. So the next best thing for her to do was to co-sign for the car.
Just a second. An I-bond that was purchased for whom?
I believe it was for Teddy.
No, it wasn't.
Oh.
Who was it for?
Who was it for?
It was in my father's name and my name.
So it was your money?
Right.
And this was a gift to you that your grandmother was going to pay for?
I was going to make payments on it.
Oh. That's not what you said.
Right. It was the gift that she was getting it in her name and on it. But when the time came and I could not make the payments, she told me she would make the payments.
Just a second. That's what we're getting at now. Because what I didn't understand was when you said your grandmother bought this car for you as a gift. She bought it for you as a gift. Why would she co-sign a loan for you?
Right.
if you took out the loan and all she's merely doing is ensuring payment,
right,
then she's not giving you a gift, madam.
Right.
So it was purchased. You were supposed to make the payments.
Yes, ma'am.
And you stopped making the payments.
Yes, ma'am.
You stopped making the payments because?
I couldn't afford it.
So what'd you buy it for?
Because at the time I could afford it.
Well, if you couldn't afford it, why didn't you sell it?
She didn't want to sell it.
She didn't want to sell it, or you didn't want to sell it?
I didn't care. I told her to take the car back. She chose to make the payments, and her response to me was she thought I would sign custody of Theodore over to her.
Yes, and when did she say that to you?
She said that to me many times and many occasions. I don't know specific dates or specific times.
When we couldn't make the
when
payments,
we couldn't make the payments.
That's when that all came about, that she was trying to get us to send her oldest son over to her.
She was
You don't have an oldest son. That's her son and her grandson. Great-grandson.
He's been my son since before he was a year old, Your Honor. He doesn't know no other person but me.
He knows her.
That's fine. What about the other three?
Just a minute. He knows her.
I grant you that, but my other 3 children don't. She has nothing to do with them because they're mine.
They're her biological grandchildren?
You're absolutely right. It's sometimes hurtful when grandparents favor one child over the other, but that doesn't mean that you cut your oldest son off from his grandmother, because that's stupid.
I agree.
That's stupid.
I agree.
Okay, listen, you can make up all kinds of excuses for why you are not going to accept responsibility for this car. Bottom line was, you asked your grandmother to co-sign a car loan for you. You were going to make the payments, and you didn't make the payments. She got stuck paying the car off, and you've got to pay her! Now, what was the payout that you agreed to?
Your Honor.
I'm speaking.
I have evidence.
Go ahead.
When the car was finally paid off, she went to our lawyer that we had the agreement that she was going to first file bankruptcy, and he was going to charge her a very cheap price. Well, she did not file bankruptcy. She paid the car off for $3,000.
$3,000.
She came and got me the day that she took the check out there and told me to go with her to take the check out there. The car was never mentioned again. No payment for the car was ever mentioned. Then on April 30th, when I had to call the police to have my son removed from there, she filed that following Tuesday, which was May 2nd, for this.
So?
No.
So what's your evidence?
On January of 2004 is when she paid off the Grand Prix.
When she paid off the Grand Prix.
So what are you telling me?
Okay.
In June 2004,
she traded her own vehicle in for us another car because we were never supposed to pay her back.
Now she wants you to pay her back. Listen to me very carefully. Now she wants you to pay her back. If you're talking to me about her motive for wanting you to pay her back, that her motive is now that she's being vindictive,
right?
If that's what you're saying, that comes into the category of too bad.
Judge Judy continues, and her granddaughter and her husband owe for a car. Shannon and Joseph Belials claim Yvonne is suing them because they won't let her see their son.
Madam, bottom line is, it was your responsibility to pay for it. But a defense, and that's not a legal defense.
And chose to give us another one to trade her own vehicle in.
I don't care. So she's being very nice to you. All of a sudden, she decided not to be nice to you because you weren't nice to her. She's entitled to do that. I don't look at her motives. Bottom line is, you said in the answer, in your answer, you said, this car was given to us as a gift. About 4 years ago, plaintiff offered to buy us a car. That's what you swore to. We told her we couldn't afford to make the car payments, but she insisted. Well, that's not what you told me a moment ago, madam. A moment ago, you told me that it was your intention to make the car payments. You were working. You had a job. You went with your grandmother. She co-signed for it. So, you know, which way is it?
Well, she was making the payments, yes. Yes, she was making the payments.
Grow up. You're grown up enough to have 4 children. Grow up and take care of your responsibilities.
When
that's
she's
what
grown
you're
up
supposed
enough
to do. Listen to me.
No.
You're grown up enough to make 3 children. You're grown up enough to take care of your responsibilities. While you two were married and making 3 babies together, you didn't have enough money to make the car payments on a car that she was driving around in. So instead of making 3 babies, you should have made 2 babies and got a second job. I'm speaking. That's what you do. If you can't take care of your bills, you don't make another baby. If you can't take care of your bills, you get another job if you have 2 children. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $3,000.
P.C. Flynn is suing her former upstairs neighbor, 21-year-old science instructor Jasmine Kivette, for water damage to her apartment. Stacy claims Jasmine overflowed her bathtub.
Council's case number 8 on the calendar, the matter of Flynn versus Kivette. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Flynn, how long have you lived in the building where you are currently residing?
I'm not currently residing there any longer, but I lived there for 15 years.
How long have you been out of that building?
1 month.
And how long had Ms. Kivette been your upstairs neighbor?
Approximately 1 year.
Did you have any difficulty with her before this incident happened?
Nothing face-to-face, but was always noisy prior to this incident.
Had you ever complained?
No.
And on February 14th, tell me what happened.
On February 14th at 5 p.m., I entered my apartment and discovered that the ceiling and the walls were flowing with steady streams of water. Instantly, I ran to management and asked them if they could assist me in the problem, and informed me that Jasmine Kiveth, the resident above me in number 327.
Don't tell me what they said to you. Pronounce your last name?
Kiveth.
Ms. Kiveth, you were home on February 14th.
Yes.
And you're going to tell me that through no fault of your own, the bathtub overflowed.
Yes.
And it was that overflowing bathtub that caused the damage to Miss Flynn's home.
Yes.
Because it was the bathtub's fault.
No, Your Honor.
Well, that's what I read here. It was the bathtub's fault. The bathtub didn't have an appropriate little hole in it. And even though you left the water running, it was the bathtub's fault for not having a hole.
There was no overflow drain.
Overflow drain. I'm not good at those things. So it was the bathtub's fault because it didn't have an overflow drain.
No, Your Honor.
Whose fault was it?
I was bleaching my bathtub, and there were tons of chemicals. The chemicals were so strong, I had to dilute them. So I left the water running, and I just was doing spring cleaning. It was an honest mistake. The water began to overflow. I did what I could to try and remedy the situation. It was an honest mistake, and she handled it in such a way that I had no choice but to refuse to pay her.
You come from California?
Yes.
What do you do?
I work at a company called Mad Science, and I teach in-class workshops and after-school programs.
You look like a nice young lady.
Thank you.
You're not seriously suggesting to me that you're not responsible for the damage to her apartment and to her things.
I understand that what happened was not her fault at all. She could not help the water coming into her apartment, of course, but the way that she handled it, she attacked me in such a manner. She provided me no evidence when she asked me for money. She wouldn't let me into her apartment to assess the damage, and the two people who were damaged told me that it was very minimal. They had dealt with her numerous times, that she was crazy, and I was beginning to think that she was a little crazy because she would yell at me, cuss at me. She would stand on her balcony demanding money.
Well, this happened on February 14th.
Yes.
So now we've acknowledged, Ms. Kiveth, that you were at fault. You lived in that apartment for a year.
Yes.
You know that the bathtub did not have an
overflow drain.
An overflow drain. Yes. This wasn't a surprise bathtub. They didn't sneak it in there,
no.
right, when you weren't looking.
Of course
This was
not.
the same old bathtub that was in there that was dirty because you hadn't been cleaning it all along. So you were bleaching it out and doing other spring cleaning, and you forgot about it.
I knew that the water was diluting the chemicals. It had to. I couldn't just leave the bleach, and it was such a...
Well, if it was diluting the chemicals, the water was
running, of course, yes.
And if the water was running and you didn't check on it often enough, then it was going to overflow,
yes.
Because it had no...
It had no overflow drain.
Right.
I was under the impression that in the state of California there must be an overflow drain or your plumbing's not up to code.
Okay. All right. There we go. Bert, stand up there, and I don't want to see any of that. I don't want to see any of that. So let me understand something. It was the bathtub's fault that it wasn't up to code. Either that or you thought that somehow between the time you started to bleach the tub out and the time it overflowed, it came up to code and somebody snuck in an overflow hole?
No, Your Honor.
So that you knew that there was no place for this water to go if you left the water running except on the floor. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So now we're not talking anymore about liability. We have now, you and I, determined, my dear, that it's not the bathtub's fault that it overflowed.
Of course not.
It's your fault. You were dusting and cleaning and being Martha Stewart and weren't paying attention to what was going on in your bathtub. Now the question is, what are the damages that Miss Flynn, the perfectly innocent bystander to this, suffered as a result of your negligence? Don't laugh at her. Don't smile at her. Just show me the damage.
Well, there was a raw pine dresser. It was in my closet with all of my other clothing, and ended up being completely saturated and soaked. It swelled so bad that I couldn't open any drawers.
Okay.
So I replaced a dresser. There was a wool braided rug that was also damaged.
I assume you took photographs?
Yes, I did.
Can I just see them, please?
Sure.
Good. Now, when did you tell the defendant about the damages and how much they were?
On the day that the incident occurred, I went to her apartment and I confronted her and informed her that there was a serious situation occurring in my apartment and that at some point we were going to have to do a damage assessment. For 2 weeks, I didn't hear one thing from her. So I wrote her a letter informing her that I was expecting her to assume responsibility and that I was willing to give her a break on certain items that were damaged because I understood she was having a difficult time.
Okay. So far, I see a lot of walls. You didn't replace any of the walls.
No.
You didn't repaint or anything. They did that. Okay. How much did it cost you to replace the dresser?
$216.
You have a bill?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please? And the rug?
Haven't replaced it.
How much did you pay for it?
It was $180.
What happened to the Tiffany lamp?
Water came down on the surface area where I had the copy it out. Wouldn't work.
Okay. $489 of what your bills are.
Here is a $75 bill to clean my carpet.
Okay, let me take a look at that. Okay. I think that you're responsible for $564 worth of damage to her apartment, including the cost of cleaning carpets. What do you want to show me?
I have a letter in which she states that she bought a rug from Walmart for $39, and now she's charging me for a different one for $200.
In place of the one for $180.
Let me see the letter. So instead of the rug for $180, you replaced it with a rug for $39?
I said that in this letter, if you'll read it, it's stating that I expected her to assume responsibility and that I would give her a break and I was willing to work with her. That arrangement was created in hope that I didn't have to go to court and sue her.
Okay, the items that she originally indicated to you come to $366.
Yes.
Plus a lot of aggravation.
Your Honor, I tried to work with her. I have a phone bill here.
So what did you offer her?
I called her numerous times.
What did you offer her?
She was harassing me, and I asked to see the damage. I couldn't offer her anything without knowing what I was paying for. All I asked for was a mere photograph or to be let into her apartment to see. You know, I apologized for what happened, but I said, can we work together? Can I see what's going on? I can't just blindly hand you money and say, here, I know there was a flood, so here's all my money. All I asked was to see what happened.
Judge Judy, for 2 weeks, I had to try to wrangle her into coming to take damage assessment, into trying to come to my apartment.
What was the first date on your phone bill? What was the first date that you called her after the flood?
February 22nd.
That's not enough.
That's not before I had her phone number.
Listen to me, my dear. You don't need a phone number. You go up to her apartment, write her a note.
I did. I didn't write a note, but I knocked on the door.
Listen to me. If this happened on February 14th,
yes,
you going up to her a week later is not sufficient. You calling her on the telephone a week later is not sufficient. She's not going to keep dirty laundry, a rug, around while you make time to go up to her house.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You've made this case very, very complex because this convoluted story that you tell me doesn't make sense to me, Mr. Zai. It's a very dumb thing to do.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stacy Flynn says her former upstairs neighbor, Jasmine Cavett, damaged her apartment when she overflowed her bathtub. Jasmine says it was an accident.
Look, the original bills that you gave her amounted to $366. What you've padded over the next couple of months, because you've been aggravated and annoyed, come to $564. Quite honestly, I believe that your time is worth something.
Thank you.
Your time to clean the premises, the time to get rid of the rug, the time to go out and buy new boots, the time to sop up the stuff, the time to wait for people to come and clean the carpeting. That's worth something. Now, the fact that the defendant says it was an accident, well, it certainly wasn't on purpose. She didn't mean to cause this flood, but she did cause the flood, and she was responsible for the consequences, including your loss of time. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't even know her. She apparently didn't like me. I have no idea why.
Completely irresponsible.
All parties in the matter of Zai versus Hagedorn, step forward.
Real estate investor Kumar Zai is suing former friend, 25-year-old bartender Morgan Hagedorn, for a loan for bail. Morgan claims Kumar's pawned her laptop and digital camera behind her back.
Mr. Zai, it is your claim that the defendant owes you some money for bail and for collect calls that she made to your home from jail. She is, according to what I've read in your complaint, the ex-roommate of your ex-girlfriend.
Correct, Your Honor.
Is that right?
Yes.
Ms. Hagedorn?
Yes.
When were you arrested and for what?
It was early March of last year.
And I was arrested for driving on a suspended license.
Why didn't you have a license?
Prior court tie-ups.
What does that mean, prior court tie-ups?
What had happened is I had received a notice in the mail, and I did not fill it out in time or get it back, and therefore my license was suspended.
How many times was your license suspended?
Just the once, but due to missing court dates and whatnot, I got it revoked as well as a bench warrant for my arrest, and that's when I was arrested.
You have a very busy corporate schedule, Ms. Hagedorn?
Yes, I do.
You do? Like what?
I do bartend full-time as well as model, and I'm pursuing other social non-for-profit organizations here in, well, my hometown, St. Louis.
Is she for real or what?
It takes up a lot of my time.
You get a copy of my old book, will you please?
Put that on your schedule.
Why did you call Mr. Zayi when you got busted?
I called my roommate, and she was at his apartment, and I didn't know what to do.
Called your roommate on her cell phone?
That is correct.
And you found her at Mr. Zayi's apartment?
They witnessed the arrest, and they were aware of what had happened.
Just listen to me very carefully. You called her on her cell phone?
I do believe.
What does that mean, you do believe?
It's been a long time, and it was a very traumatic night.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Zayi?
I'm a real estate investor.
Did she call you in your house?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have the phone bill?
Unfortunately, I couldn't obtain the phone bill. No, I don't have the phone record.
Well, what evidence do you have of this whole thing, sir?
Well, I do have a paper from the court from the day that I actually went and bailed her out of jail. I had to charge it on my credit card. There was a record of that, and which was actually the bond money. And I also have a court paper that shows that they refunded the bond money to her and her attorney instead of coming back to me.
Why is that, Ms. Hagedorn? Why did you take the bond money?
I did not receive any bond money. I was told that I was not to receive it, and it was to be paid to my attorney for services rendered.
Who's your attorney?
Leland.
Phone number?
I do not have that information on
Go get it! Go get it!
Okay.
Ready?
Area code 947.
Okay, and it is your testimony that you never saw any of this money, and it went to your attorney for counsel fees that were your responsibility?
Yes.
They were Mr. Zayi's responsibility?
That is correct.
Good. So why don't you owe him this money, $1,095?
Well, what happened, Your Honor? Kumars told me that he had taken my laptop as well as my digital camera that was at his girlfriend's grandmother's house, and he pawned it off. This was a brand new laptop.
Go ahead.
Your Honor. What had happened was she pawned her computer approximately 2 months prior to this incident, along with her digital camera. And my ex-girlfriend's grandmother felt sorry for her, went to the pawn shop, got it out of there, and held on to it till she gives her the money to, basically get it back.
So she pawned it?
She pawned it originally, and after repeated phone calls, I've called her at least 20, 30 times, left messages for her, to give me a call back, let's make an arrangement, to pay this money back to me. Never heard back from her. So I contacted my ex-girlfriend's grandmother. I said, is there a way I can get the computer from you to maybe sell it, to maybe recover some of my money? And she says, well, let me call her and tell her that this is what I'm doing. I said, that's fine. And I paid $300 to her, my ex-girlfriend's grandmother, to get her computer and her digital camera. I called her. I said, I have your computer, I have your digital camera. If you want to come and pay me the money that you owe me, it's sitting right here. Otherwise, I'm going to try to sell it to recover some of my money. Never heard back from her again. So,
did you sell it?
I sold the computer for $325. I still have the digital camera. I brought it with me to give it back to her.
Well, so you sort of resorted to self-help, sir. You've made this case, which was a relatively simple case, very, very complex.
Yes, sir.
You understand, Mr. Zayi?
Yes, I understand.
You should have come to me before you resorted to self-help, sir, because this convoluted story that you tell me doesn't make sense to me, Mr. Zayi. It's a very dumb thing to do. And since you've complicated the situation, there's very little I can do to help you. I mean, this lady, I know, has a very busy corporate schedule, but she doesn't know whether she's a foot or horseback. I don't know whether you got full value for the computer when you sold it for $300. You can't do what you did. You created a problem by complicating the situation by resorting to your own form of self-help. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
I can't help you. Goodbye.
How did I excuse
is suing her ex-boyfriend, account manager Tim Lemke, for money she invested in his home and the return of a cat.
That's case number 1 on the calendar in the matter of Abel versus Lemke. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Abel, you and Mr. Lemke were dating each other, and according to your complaints, you moved into a home that he purchased, and you paid him during the course of the 6 months that you lived there approximately $9,000. You claim that that was money that you want back now that the relationship is over because that money was really used to defray the cost of his mortgage.
Yes.
In addition, you claim that he has some personal property that belongs to you and a cat. Mr. Lemke says that the money that you paid to him was rent, that the cat belonged to him, that he had the cat prior to your moving in, and he has none of your personal property. What was the financial arrangement when you moved in, Miss Abel?
On May 7th in 2004, we discussed how I could help with expenses. Mr. Lemke brought up the fact that about $1,400 would be fair, and I offered another $100 just to call it an even $1,500 because 2 women, my daughter and myself, were moving in, and there's a lot of blow dryer and hot water used.
Okay,
in
so
that
you
case.
agreed to pay him $1,500 a month.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and?
And then about May 24th, after I had moved in, we had become engaged, we had a discussion concerning my problem with the fact that I'm giving a lot of money to something that I won't get any return on. And why would I want to give $1,500 toward a mortgage that my name was not on? And Mr. Lemke said, well, I've been thinking about that, and here's what I've worked out. And I have the notes that he jotted down that day to explain to me how this money was actually an investment into his property.
Well, first tell me what he said to you.
He said that because his home appreciates $54,000 a year, over the past 10 years it had done that because it's lake property, that if you divide that number by 12 months and then again by 2 people, it comes out to about $2,200 a month in equity and investment money.
Yes.
And that is what he...
If your name was on the mortgage and if the house was titled in both of your names.
That part was left out. The fact that he
Well,
said...
I understand
Yes.
that, but well, I understand it's left out of your story.
Right, exactly. But he also mentioned on this same piece of paper in an email to the attorney that I'm willing to invest in his home and that upon sale of the home, I would receive the investment money back plus free equity. And that is also in the handwritten note that he
Let me
gave
see
me.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this note discusses a prenuptial agreement that the 2 of you were contemplating.
Correct.
And what he says is, Gail wants to enhance the aesthetic ambiance of my cabin and is willing to invest in it.
Mm-hmm.
Any proceeds over $775,000 would be shared in the event of a sale. Are you okay doing a prenup for both of us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you sold the cabin?
No.
Well, your agreement was that when and if the house was sold, you would share in the profits and get your money back. The house hasn't been sold.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So you can't change the agreement because you're no longer together. You could have just as easily worked out an agreement where you said, well, that's fine. If the house is sold, I get my money back, and if we don't get married, I get some of my money back. But you get your money back. The house hasn't been sold. That's your agreement.
But it was a term of our engagement and marriage as I understood it, that that money was investment.
You don't make an investment just because you understood it to be an investment.
Mm-hmm.
So you never came to an agreement with regard to that, according to this. Now, you're not suggesting that Mr. Lemke agreed to support you and your daughter.
Oh, not at all.
Good.
Not at all.
So that your $1,500 a month that you paid went for the roof over your head and your daughter's head, the electric that you say you used because you're 2 women that use more electricity for the heating or air conditioning or whatever else. $1,500 a month is reasonable. Get over it. Now let's get to the cat. Did you have the cat before?
Gail got the cat on her 40th birthday as a gift to herself. And shortly after I met her, gave me the cat.
When?
She said, we met February 3rd and she gave me the cat February 20th.
Were you living together at the time?
No, she was living in her house. And she gave me the cat because the house was a total mess of animal feces and stink.
Whose
in
house?
her house.
Yes.
And she had trouble with maintaining all the dogs and the cats in her house. So
How many dogs did she have?
I'm guessing 5 to 10.
Is that how many dogs you had?
I'm a breeder, Your Honor, and I had 5 dogs, yes, at the time.
How many cats?
2. And I would like to say that my house was not, as he mentioned.
When did you move into his house?
May 15th, 2004.
All right, so between February and May, the cat was in his house?
No, Your Honor, no. I'm sorry. The cat did not leave my home until April. I had not decided to move in with him until April. And at that point, he asked if he could take the cat ahead of time because his daughters would get a kick out of it.
Okay. When did you move out of the house?
November 26, 2004.
And when you moved out of the house, did you take the cat with you?
No, I couldn't, Your Honor. I had to leave in a hurry because of abusive behavior.
Did you come back on the 27th for your cat? Just answer my question. Did you come back on the 27th for your cat?
Not for the cat, Your Honor. For possessions that I needed, my clothing and that sort of thing that I needed that I could take with me.
Good, but you didn't take your cat.
No, I could not.
Why could not?
He had told me that I must leave the dog and the cat there.
Fine. Did you come back with the police and say, this is my cat?
Yes, I did on February 28th.
Too late. Finished. Cat's his. If somebody took my dog, I guarantee you I would be there. I would file a lawsuit, not for my property, but if somebody took my dog and wouldn't let me have my dog, it wouldn't take me from November 26th to February to say,
Your
my
Honor,
pet is gone.
I had been asking him for the cat over
Asking
and
him
over
for
again.
the cat, listen to me, asking him for the cat is not what one does when one is missing one's valued, precious pet.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The property that you claim
Says ex-boyfriend Tim Lemke owes for the return of money she invested in his home. Gail also claims Tim won't return her cat.
Go ahead.
I have email of all the times I requested amicably to get the cat back.
Starting before February?
Yes.
Show me before
Absolutely
February.
before February. All right, this starts on January 16th, which
No, just a second. So the first
Yes.
time from November is in January that you have proof of when you ask for the cat back. Is that what you're telling me? Let me
That's
see.
the proof, yes.
Let me see.
It starts at the top of the page.
Where's the cat now, Mr. Lemke?
The cat was loaned to a friend of mine to catch a mouse.
Where is the cat now?
Oh, my house. Excuse me.
That was my question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you right. Apologize. He was loaned out for a very short amount of time, and she demanded I get the cat back and I could keep the cat as long as I kept the cat at my house. So she came back and verified, and that's in an email that the cat was there, and she said, okay.
Where is that?
It's in an email.
You have it?
Yeah, right here. And when she... Excuse me.
Well, this in January seems to indicate that you wanted to come to his house to verify that the cat was back in his house.
Yes. And I asked again, may I please take my cat back? And he said no, he wouldn't even let me near it. He had the cat missing for a month, Your Honor. That night he gave me 3 different stories as to where the cat was. First it was with an old lady having surgery.
Where are your dogs now?
The one that I kept is with me. The other dogs I placed in other homes because...
And what about the cat that you had?
I had the cat for 6 years.
Where's the cat?
Oh, the second cat?
Yes.
Oh, the second cat?
Yes, the cat.
The cat we're talking about.
No, your other cat. You said you had 5 dogs and 2 cats.
Right.
Where's the other cat?
Right. The other cat went home with Mr. Lemke's nephew and stayed with his brother. I have that cat back now. I'm very thankful to say.
So you have the cat back?
I have the other cat back, yes. But not this one. But in the top of that email that you see, he said, I will give you the cat back if it's that big of a deal. And I said, yes, it is that big of a deal.
Well, evidently it wasn't such a big deal because you waited 4 months to get it back. Now, what property? Are you telling me that the property that you claim he has that's yours are a soy sauce bottle?
Oh, sorry, Your Honor.
CDs, just a second. A soy sauce bottle, that's what you say in the email. CDs, a tape gun, painting supplies, brush, hand pail, rollers. This is what you say in an email.
Yes, as I discovered things were missing, Your Honor.
I'm not interested in as you discovered. Is this the email that you sent to him on January 19th? Soy sauce bottle, CDs, tape gun, painting supplies, and brush.
Yes, a growing list of things that I needed
I'm not
to get.
interested in your growing list. Get over it, Miss Abel. Listen to me very carefully. It didn't work out. Put your list down. It didn't work out. You paid rent for $1,500 a month for those 6 months that you lived there. Very reasonable, considering you are 2 people. You made that agreement, and the fact that it didn't work out, and you did not memorialize an agreement that was more specific with regard to the $1,500 that you were paying him is your problem. You cannot visit that on courts. It didn't work out. Put a period. Move on. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
All right. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. All parties in the matter of Macias versus Ayala, step forward, please.
Medical coder Alina Macias is suing the mother of her son's schoolmate, business owner Sandra Ayala, for the cost of her son's medical bills. And Alina says Sandra's boy injured her son with a pencil.
Step over there. No, you have...
Yeah, no.
Okay, you too.
What's your first name?
Nathaniel.
And yours?
Jonathan.
Nathaniel, you were injured in school
Right.
with a pencil.
Yes.
You sat down, according to the complaint. You sat down on your chair And you were stuck in the rear end with a pencil which lodged in your buttocks and had to be surgically removed. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And it is your claim that this young man was responsible.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I assume that you didn't see how the pencil got there. Because if you had seen how the pencil got there, you wouldn't have sat on it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you didn't see how it got there?
No, ma'am.
So Jonathan here is going to tell me, because I read the answer about the flying pencil, but I want him to tell me himself how the pencil got on his chair. So we're going to start from turn around and look at me.
12-year-old Nathaniel Mancha says his classmate, 12-year-old Jonathan Ayala, stuck him with a pencil. Jonathan claims it was an accident.
How old are you?
12.
How do you do in school?
Good.
How is your conduct in school?
Good, too.
Never have any complaints by the teachers?
A little bit only.
Speak up.
A little bit only.
And when the teachers complain about you a little bit only, what do they complain about?
Like sometimes talking and then like a little bit slacking off.
Now, you know Nathaniel, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long has he been in your class?
This year only.
Do you like him?
Uh-huh.
Did you play together?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember the day that he was hurt with the pencil?
Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how the pencil got on his chair.
Well, I was doing my work and like the pencil was like small, so I didn't want it anymore. So I wanted to throw it to the trash, and
It's just the pencil was small.
yes.
And you're sitting in your seat.
Uh-huh.
And you wanted to throw the pencil in the trash.
Yes.
Where was the trash?
Next to Nate's chair.
And how far away from Nate were you sitting?
At least like 2.5 feet.
So very close.
Uh-huh. But
So now you got this little pencil, and you wanted to throw it away, and the trash was right next to him.
yes, it was right next to his chair.
What were you going to use to complete your work?
Another pencil that I had on my desk, which was bigger.
So you had a little well on your desk where you could keep the pencils?
No, I always put my pencils next to my papers.
Do you have a book bag?
Yeah, in my backpack.
Where is your backpack?
I left it home that day.
What were you wearing to school?
My school emblem shirt and my jeans.
Your shirt have a pocket?
No.
Your jeans have a pocket?
Yeah, but they're tight.
You know you're pretty swift. You think that you're smarter than I am?
No.
You're not, Jonathan. Believe me, you're not. You know where I'm going with these questions?
Uh-huh.
Where do you think I'm going with these questions?
Trying to see if I'm telling the truth or not.
Yeah, trying to see if you could put the pencil someplace else rather than throw. What you're going to tell me is you threw the pencil into the trash. Or
No,
you
I
tried to throw it into the trash.
Yeah, I was going to.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And it landed straight up on Jonathan's chair. And he sat on it. Right?
I didn't land straight on the chair. It was going through the chair when he sat on it because he was...
It was in midair when he sat on it.
Yes, it was pointing up.
How do you got hurt?
Uh-huh.
Well, whose fault do you think that is?
Mine.
Right. Now we're getting somewhere. Why is it your fault?
Because I threw a pencil.
Because you threw the pencil. You had choices, right?
Uh-huh.
You chose throwing the pencil, right?
Right.
So whether you threw the pencil and he sat on it or you placed it on his chair as sort of a joke, it's your fault, right? See, I knew we'd get somewhere. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now you can sit down. I mean, Miss Ayala, quite frankly, you wrote the answer. You told me in the answer that this was nobody's fault. It was the pencil's fault. Oh, next to your mother. It's not the pencil's fault. It's his fault. He had choices. And at age 12, he has to understand that there are consequences to making the wrong choice. His choice was he could have held on to the pencil. He could have put it in his pocket. He could have placed it on the floor. He chose to throw it, according to him, which way out, but, you know, not impossible. Certainly not his fault that he sat down on his chair, right?
Right.
So now your son understands that it's his fault and his responsibility that he got hurt. Do you understand that?
Yes, I understand.
Perfect. Good. Now can I see his medical bills?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of treatment did you get?
They put me under.
Under anesthesia.
Yes.
How many stitches did you have?
1.
Were you uncomfortable for a while?
Yes.
What did Jonathan say after you sat on the pencil? Did he apologize?
No.
Has he ever apologized to you?
No.
Have you spoken to him since this happened?
Yes.
Are you back to being friends?
Yes.
Good. Did you apologize?
No, I never got a chance to.
Well, now's a chance.
Sorry for throwing the pencil.
Certainly, Miss Ayala, you don't expect the plaintiff to bear any of the cost of treating her son. They had almost $600 in unreimbursed medical bills, and that you are responsible for. Because as between the two of you, he's innocent and he's not. Whether he did it as a joke or whether he did it because he was negligent or because he wasn't thinking. So you are responsible for those medical bills. Are these your only bills?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all.
Pardon, Judge Hughes, you may step out.
Because it was a...
Nell versus Campbell.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
All right, Miss Fennell, this is your old boyfriend.
Correct.
This is, according to your complaint, probably Carlos.
That's Carlos, correct.
New boyfriend.
Old boyfriend also.
Old boyfriend.
Correct.
You don't stand still too long. Who is this?
This is my fiance, Tiffany.
She's just here for moral support?
Mm-hmm.
Because she brought the old boyfriend, you brought the Tiffany.
Right.
Got it. Miss Fennell, according to your complaint, this gentleman, with whom you had a relationship for a while, became annoyed when he found out that you were with Carlos, and he vandalized your car. Mr. Campbell says he was, in fact, annoyed, but he didn't do any damage to your car. When were you and Mr. Campbell involved in a relationship?
We started... Actually, I met him June of 2003.
When did you and Mr. Campbell terminate your relationship?
November of 2003.
And when did this incident happen with your car?
In March of 2004.
Well, tell me what happened in March of 2004.
Carlos had come to visit me at Ohio University.
Carlos?
Carlos had come to visit
How long had you been dating Carlos?
I started dating him in December of 2003, very soon after ending the relationship with Clifton. So he had come to visit me at the university, and we just come in from a movie. It may have been about 1:30 in the morning. This was March 13th. I hear this banging on my door, and so, you know, it was kind of unusual.
Were you in a dorm room?
Yes, I am in a dorm room, or I was then. And so it's 2 o'clock in the morning, so, you know, I'm not expecting anybody. So I go to the peephole, and I see that it's him. Like, we've had history in our relationships of just different violence and him threatening me and stuff like that. And so prior to him coming, he had been trying to call me, and I wasn't answering the phone. So he had been leaving messages on my voicemail, just threatening.
I mean, he just decided to come out of the blue? He hadn't been in touch with him, really? Since November of 2003, all of a sudden in March of 2004, he shows up?
We've been in contact sporadically, not very much. He was just calling. We kept in contact via email.
But you hadn't been dating?
We hadn't been dating.
Anyway, he comes, it's 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, bangs at the door. You don't answer the door. What happens next?
Carlos is there. Carlos wants to answer the door, and he and Cliff had just a few words. It wasn't a big episode like I thought it would be. And afterwards, he
Did you say anything to Mr. Campbell?
No, I didn't.
Okay. What happened next?
Once he left the dorm room, I went to my dorm window because I know what he's capable of. And so when I looked out the window, I saw him kicking my car and walking away.
Did you call the police?
I did.
That same day?
That same evening.
Do you have a police report?
I do.
I see it, please.
There's some pictures.
What kind of sneakers are you wearing?
Lugs.
Lugs?
Yes.
Is that who makes them, Lugs?
Yes.
Is that what you usually wear?
Yes.
Oh. All right, Mr. Campbell, let me hear what you have to say, sir.
For one, we were not just boyfriend, girlfriend. That was my fiance. We had got engaged on March 9th.
Tell me about that, Mr. Campbell.
Well, basically, I had came to Ohio University on March 9th, I remember, because that's my little brother's birthday. I had proposed to Tamar. She had said yes.
Did you give her a ring?
Yes.
Does she still have the ring, or did you take it back?
No, I didn't take it back. I'm not sure if she still has it or not.
What kind of ring did you buy her?
Ring with, like, I don't know how many carats, the diamonds in it.
How much did you pay for it?
It was like $1,700.
And you didn't ask for it back?
No.
Did he give you a ring?
He gave me a ring, but...
Remember when?
I don't believe it was March 9th. I think it was the week before then, the last week in February. He did give me a ring.
So that you were still not only communicating with Mr. Campbell on the internet by email, but just a few weeks before, you had actually seen him.
We weren't seeing each other.
You had actually seen him, I said.
I had seen him, yes.
How long did you stay when you came to visit her, Mr. Campbell?
I had spent the night with her March 9th, and I left on March 10th.
So when you came back on March 13th, because she wasn't answering her phone, and
Well, she did answer the phone.
Oh, she did?
One time.
And what did she say?
I heard a guy in the back, which I presume was probably whatever his name is.
Carlos.
She just wasn't acting herself. Normally, she's real uppity and giddy when we're talking on the phone. And it sounded like she was trying to hide something and was rushing me off the phone.
So you became
suspicious.
And you got in the car, and how long a drive is it to the school?
It's about 3.5 to 4 hours.
And while you were driving, did you try to call her again?
Yes.
How many times?
Probably 4 or 5.
So by the time you got there, you were really pretty annoyed.
I was...
Sure, just, so far you've been honest with me. Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
So far you've been together, and you've been honest.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That doesn't mean you're going to get away with denting her car. I want you to trust me on this, Mr. Campbell. But I like the fact that you've been honest, so I'm not going to stomp on your head. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Very good. Now, second ex-boyfriend answers the door, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
What do you do?
First, I'm just dumbfounded. It's like, this is my fiance, and this dude is answering the door trying to look like he was all tough or something.
So what do you think was going on there? You think he was delivering a vacuum cleaner?
Not at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I know you were
claims ex-fiancé Clifton Campbell kicked her car. She had a new boyfriend. Clifton is denying the charge.
So what did you do?
Well, basically, me and him had a few words, and then I was just like, F it, y'all can have each other, and I left.
But when you left, you kicked her car.
No, I didn't.
Well, maybe you were just so angry you don't remember, Mr. Campbell.
Maybe he was also angry.
He was.
That was her boyfriend?
No. You know why, sir? Because the two of them called the police together immediately after you left. And the police went downstairs and looked at her car, which was very dirty. But the one thing that they did find were fresh sneaker prints on the car. Reeboks and dents where the footprint went into the door. Now, quite frankly, I can understand you being really annoyed. She clearly doesn't make up her mind well, but she's entitled to play the field if she wants to. Not entitled to going around breaking people's hearts. That's really unkind.
I would like to explain if I can.
Go ahead.
Okay. One thing that he did say was that was my boyfriend, and Cliff was aware that Carlos and I were dating.
She told me it was some dumb dude she get money from. That's all she told me about
Oh,
him.
no, I never
Just a
said
second.
that.
Okay. So?
When we broke up, it was on these crazy terms. I had been through just a lot of things with him, as far as him threatening my life, different situations where he held me at knife point, just a lot of violent situations where I felt like if I was going to ever have a situation that was going to be calm with Cliff, I pretty much had to tell him what he wanted to hear.
She's lying.
She's lying, Mr. Campbell. She's lying because she didn't tell me all of this stuff when it was her turn. And she says a lot of things in here, that she witnessed you stab somebody during spring break. She witnessed you burn down somebody's home, which is why she knew that you were violent and she wasn't going to subject herself to that. She didn't play it nicely.
I don't think I'll be out right now if I stab somebody and burn down their home.
Listen to me. Mr. Campbell, I think that you were pretty fortunate that you have a new fiancé. You get along pretty well together?
We get along great.
What do you do for a living, sir?
Right now, telemarketing.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
You planning on getting married?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, very good. Miss Fennell, what year car do you have?
94.
1994 what?
Honda Accord EX.
And did you get an estimate on taking out the dents?
I did.
Let me take a look at the picture. I see a dent near a door. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can pull out the dents in that car. The paint isn't off.
The paint's off.
Car's 10 years old. Is it just off in that spot?
Excuse me, Judge.
It's only in that spot.
She told me one night around Christmas that she had got drunk and got in a wreck and dented her car up.
Listen to me. The police noted the damage on March 13th, sir. I'm not believing her. I'm saying the police noted the damage.
I understand that.
Oh,
but if she was messing with 2 different guys at the time, how do I know it was in the third or fourth that got off and did that
Just
to her
a second.
car?
You don't have to. Only I have to know, Mr. Campbell. And there may have been somebody else that gave her car a good clop. But so did you, on your way out.
No, I didn't.
I'm telling you that I believe that you did. You had the opportunity, you had the inclination, and you certainly, Mr. Campbell, had the motive.
But I didn't.
Don't say it again. There's only one person who gets the last word in. That's me. Do you understand? Only me. I know you're a telemarketer, but only I get the last word. You know the people that say, goodbye, don't call me again? That's me.
Tamara Fennell claims ex-fiancé Clifton Campbell kicked her car after discovering she had a new boyfriend. Clifton is denying the charge.
You get a ding doctor to pull out the dings that he did on your now almost 12-year-old car. Not for $1,700, which is more than the car is worth, but for $500. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all. Don't play with people's hearts, Miss Fennell. Sometimes you're going to get burned. This time it was just your car. Next time it may be another part of you. That's
Parties
all.
are excused. You may step out.
I believe it was when she heard that I...
Lampa versus Fout. Step forward.
23-year-old Mindy Lampa is suing her former friend, 23-year-old Gary Fout, for an unpaid loan. Mindy claims Gary promised to repay the loan with his tax refund, but never did.
Miss Lampa, Mr. Fout was a friend of yours, and according to what I've read, you've known him for about 4 years.
Correct.
Are you an accountant by trade?
No.
But you do your own income tax, and you do income tax for other people?
Correct.
This past year, Mr. Fout asked you to do his taxes, according to your complaint.
Correct.
And you agreed for a small fee.
Right.
So far, are we correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were entitled to a refund?
Yes, ma'am.
Of how much, sir?
$28.60 or something like that.
Is that right?
$28.81.
And you wanted that refund right away?
Yeah.
And what did you tell him, Miss Lampa?
I told him that if he agreed to give me the refund, give me the money back once the refund was posted, that I would give him the loan as long as he agreed to it. He said he would, so I wrote him the check.
So far, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you do his taxes?
February 13th, the week of the February 13th.
And when did you give him the check?
I wrote him the check on February 16th.
And when did you cash the check, Mr. Fout?
It was deposited maybe this next day.
Yeah. You did get the refund back?
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't give her the money?
No.
And the reason that you didn't give her the money is because, A, you say that she told your mother, and she shouldn't have done that.
Correct.
And B, she doesn't need the money anyway. Shh. Please.
That wasn't the case, no.
Well, that's what you say in your answer.
Well, the reason was she had started calling me about a week.
Just a second. I just want to make sure I had both of your reasons, both of your defenses. Okay. One, you say that the plaintiff told your mother.
Correct.
And the second thing was, I don't know why she is so hard up for this money. She lives expense-free with my father-in-law.
Correct.
So my first question is, how do you know this idiot?
He used to be a coworker with me.
Okay. You got 10 seconds to explain to me why she isn't entitled to this judgment.
She called me about a week after she gave me the check, saying, I want the money, I want the money. I hadn't had the refund yet.
When did you get the refund?
It was about...
That's very easy to figure out, sir.
It was 7 or 8 weeks afterwards, I believe.
I do have a copy of the
I'd like
status.
to see it.
It was posted about 6 weeks after.
March 11th. So it's February 17th. So it was less than a month later that you got the check. I'm speaking. Sorry. It was less than a month later.
Okay.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, when you got the check, March 11th, why didn't you give her the money?
She called me about a week after she gave me the check, her check, saying, I need it. Told her it hadn't deposited yet. She said she was going to call my mother and tell her to give it to her, and then I would pay her back. I told her, I said, if you call my mother, I'm not paying you, period. I don't want my mother involved. This is between me and you. In the story, you call her, I'm not paying.
You can't make, listen to me. You cannot unilaterally modify a contract. You know what that means? No, didn't think you did. You can't say to her, if you do thus and such, I'm not going to pay you back. Now, she agreed.
Yes,
just a second. Are you telling me, Mr. Fout, that when you said to her, if you call my mother, I'm not going to pay you back, she said to you, fine. If I call your mother, you won't have to pay me back? Is that what you're telling me?
Not in that many words. What she said was, that's fine, then I will not call her.
I never said that.
She did, created problems with me and my mother.
That's too bad.
Well, the problem was, it was...
Your Honor, I waited a week.
You know, in her world, her adopted father is her everything, and he jumps when she tells her to. My mother and me don't do that, and I did not want her to cause problems between me and my mother, which she did, when I only see my mother maybe every 2 weeks. Cause problems because she had to run like a child. And tell her.
Mr. Fout, there's only one child in this room. Unfortunately, I have a sense that this young lady, who's your girlfriend, right? Wife. Oy.
After 6 months of dating.
Relax.
Excuse you.
You're doing how many people?
Don't speak to her. You want to speak to her? You speak to her outside when you're handing her your check. But in here, you only talk to me.
Yes, ma'am.
One child in here, and that's a child that doesn't pay their debts. Somebody who is a friend of yours. A friend of yours.
We weren't friends at the time.
Listen to me, Mr. Fout.
Yes, ma'am.
If you weren't friendly with her at the time, why do you think a stranger would say to you, you want your money now so that you can have instant gratification? I'll give you the money, interest-free, because I have so much money, it's not going to make any difference to me. Do you know anybody like that?
No.
No, of course not. I mean, did you actually think you were going to come here today and walk away unscathed?
Well,
you acted like a child.
No, the problem
She chose to marry a child. That's her problem.
No,
when you owe somebody money, when you make a contract, you pay your bills, Mr. Fout.
And then
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,800.
Of Lucy versus Todd. Step forward.
18-year-old Christine Lucy is suing the father of her daughter, 19-year-old Fred Todd, for damage to her car. Christine says a drunken Fred kicked her door.
Miss Lucy, this young man used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
And you have a child together with him.
Mm-hmm.
And you claim that he has a bad temper. And because of his bad temper, he kicked or slammed your car door on 2 separate occasions, causing some damage.
Yes.
Mr. Todd says that your car is old, that you both lost your temper and slammed the car door. Yours on your side, his on his side. He's not responsible for any damage. How old is this baby that you have together?
She's a year old.
Did you ever live with Mr. Todd?
Yeah. When I found out that I was pregnant, we moved in together, and from then it's been kind of a rocky relationship. I've moved out and moved back in a few times.
When you move out, you move back home with your parents?
Yes.
How old are you?
I'm 18.
Where are you living now?
With my parents.
Stay there.
I am.
I mean, it's not for you. You're 18, you're still a baby yourself, but you made a baby, you have responsibility to give that baby a certain amount of stability, and you don't need any more boyfriends for a while, and you just have to concentrate on your child.
And that's why I decided in June of this year that I wanted her to have a stable home where her family wasn't fighting all the time.
Right, because an 18-year-old, how old are you?
19.
Another genius. An 18-year-old and a 19-year-old, or a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old, when they make a baby, it's a very dumb thing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So, when was the first damage he allegedly did to the car?
In July of this year, he was too drunk to drive, and his mom needed a ride to work. And I went to go pick him up and take him over to get his mom and take her to work. And on the way there...
You mean, just a minute, his mother called and said he's too drunk to drive?
No, he called me and said that his mom needed a ride to work, and he was too drunk.
What time of the day was this?
It was about 10 o'clock at night.
Does that ring a familiar chord, sir?
No, Your Honor. For one thing, I wasn't drunk. I hadn't been drinking.
Your Honor, that's...
Shh.
I didn't have a car at the time.
Mr. Todd,
actually.
Did you say to her, I've been drinking? Let's say you didn't use the word drunk. I've been drinking. My mom needs a ride to work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You know.
I mean, the.
Listen to me. I have in my brain a truth machine. I'm not here to hurt you, Mr. Todd. I'm only going to hurt you if you don't tell me the truth.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What's my business?
The father of her child, Fred Todd, kicked her door during a drunken argument.
What kind of work were you doing in July?
I'm a dock worker, as a matter of fact.
Were you making good money?
Well, at one job I was making $15.50 an hour, and at the other job I was making $13 an hour.
How many hours a week?
About in between 30 and 40 hours, and the other ones it was sometimes from 20 all the way up to 40 hours.
So you're working at least 50 hours a week?
Yeah.
How much were you giving her?
I'd say in between 50 and 60.
Shh. So of the $1,250 that you were making, you were giving her between $50 and $60 a week for the baby.
Yeah.
What were you doing with the rest of your money?
I had to buy a car. I owe money for things. I have a lot of bills. I live on my own.
Were you living on your own in July?
Oh, yeah. I've been living on my own since I was 17.
Now, so tell me about this. Now we're going to get back to the car.
The first incident, when I went to go take his mother to work, on the way there, we got into a fight over his drinking and him not giving me any money for our daughter. And he got upset, and when we got there, he opened the door and he kicked it to keep it open. And when he did that, I guess it shifted my car door.
because the door was flush with the front panel.
What kind of car do you have?
I have a 97 Grand Am.
All right, when was the next incident involving the car?
The next incident was early the next week. He wanted to talk about some things, so I told him that he could come with me on my errands and talk to me on the way because I was very busy that day. And so we didn't talk a whole lot while I was doing my errands. It was on the way back. He tried to convince me to get back with him and try to start a relationship again. I told him that I didn't want to. I wanted to stay at my parents' house, try to build my own life, and he got very upset about that and lost his temper and started yelling at me. And then when we got to his mom's house so I could pick up our daughter, he did the exact same thing again. He opened the car door and kicked it. But
you mean kicked it open?
Yeah.
Kicked it open, didn't kick it closed. Kicked it open.
He kicked it open. It was actually the hinges in the door frame were so far bent that you couldn't open or close my door.
Can I see the estimate?
Sure.
Good.
The pictures are here.
Good.
As well.
Okay, Mr. Todd, now I'm going to hear you.
Well, we went out to get it inspected, and she, like, as soon as we broke up, she immediately started dating again, immediately trying to replace me, immediately trying to get a, I don't know if she was trying to get another father for my daughter or what she was trying to do. So it made me angry because I'm my daughter's father, and she's not going to replace me. I'm not going to let her. And
well, what do you mean replace you? I don't understand. You mean replace you?
Into my daughter's life, in and out of my daughter's life, because that's not, I don't feel that's a good situation for her, to grow up in with guys in and out, over life all the time.
What makes you think, sir, that the plaintiff is going to bring a whole bunch of guys in and out of your daughter's life?
Because within the first 4 months of us being broken up, she's already had 3 or 4 in and out of her life already.
Just to say, 3 or 4 what in and out of it? She
3 or
lived with
4 guys.
How, you mean that she's dated?
Yeah, but she's taken my daughter around and brought them around my daughter.
So, I mean, if you're telling me that she's lived in the 4 months that you've been separated, she moved in with one guy, and then she moved out, and then she moved in with another guy, and she moved out, and she moved in with another guy, and she moved out. I would say to her, you're doing the wrong thing, and I would say to you, if you don't like her conduct, and if you think her conduct is damaging to the child, and that would be damaging, go to court and seek custody of the child.
And we're in the process of that.
Just a second. But if what you're telling me is she's dated 4 people since the 2 of you split up, that's none of your business.
No, you're right. You're right. It isn't none of my business. But what's my business is that she's taking my daughter around those people, and I don't want my daughter
around those people. I don't know what you mean. You mean when she goes out with them, she'll spend a Sunday afternoon with them in the park?
She'll bring them back to her mom and dad's house.
So that's not your business.
But they're around my daughter.
That's not your business.
May I ask why?
That's not your business unless there's something wrong with these people.
Well,
you're not her morals monitor. Just like she's not your morals monitor. Get to kicking the car.
So, that was what the argument was about. So we was arguing about that, and we come pulling up.
About which you were wrong.
Okay, about which I was wrong.
Absolutely, because you're not going to like it 2 years from now when you have a new girlfriend who moves in with you, because I have a feeling you like to have somebody live with you. And she says, I don't want my daughter over there sleeping over. He sleeps with this woman and they sleep in the same bed, and I don't want that. I'm going to tell you the same thing. That's none of your business. When a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old are dumb enough to make a baby, you got to make concessions for the next 20 years. Think about having another one. Got it? I would have 3 jobs if I were you so that you kept busy. Why did you kick her door?
I didn't kick her door. Actually, we was pulling up to my mother's house. The second time isn't when I don't think that it could have got damaged. The second time, we both got out of the car when we was arguing and slammed the door.
Just a minute, but her door opens.
But what I'm saying is I think it was the first incident. If I can explain that to you, I think that's what damaged the door to make it do that the second time.
So you mean you just started it the first time, but the second time it was real? You pushed it over?
I didn't kick her door, is what I'm saying.
Just listen to me. If you were the passenger.
Yeah.
Door doesn't close.
Okay.
She could slam her door.
Okay, but
her door closes and opens.
Mm-hmm.
You got it?
Yeah.
Got it. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,022. That's all. Thank you.
Ladies, have a seat.
Thank you, Bert.
You're welcome, Judge.
How old are you, Mr. Adrias?
I'm 19, Your Honor.
What do you do?
Currently, I'm employed at a hospital in Denver. I work in patient accounts. I also have a second job at a local mall selling cigars, and I also go to school.
So you're very busy.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
You consider yourself an intelligent young man?
I would like to think so, Your Honor.
Good. Your complaint is that you went to Mr. Schilling's tanning salon and you received second-degree burns on portions of your body after you used the tanning beds there. You are not claiming that the beds were in any way defective. But you say that you did not receive adequate instructions on the use of the bed, and therefore it's his responsibility.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And Mr. Schilling says that you went to the tanning beds, you signed a release, and that if you were dumb enough to lay in the tanning bed longer than you should have, it's your problem. Pretty much, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You didn't say dumb enough.
No, I did not say that.
I'm
No.
saying dumb enough.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. When did you visit Mr. Schilling's tanning salon?
It was August 31st of this year.
Had you ever gone to a tanning salon before?
One time, a year prior to that, but it was not his business, Your Honor.
Did you get burned the first time you used the tanning beds?
No, I did not.
How long did you stay in the tanning bed the first time? Do you recall?
4 to 8 minutes, possibly.
And did you like the result?
I did, yeah.
Gave you a little bit of a glow.
Yeah.
You know this is not particularly good for you, right?
Yeah, I've heard that.
What prompted you to go back to tanning on the 31st of August?
Well, Your Honor, honestly, I hadn't planned it. I was working out at my local health club, and as I was exiting, I was approached by 2 of Mr. Schilling's employees who were promoting his business. They handed me 2 cards, and they said, hey, these are valid for 2 free tans each. Why don't you and your girlfriend go and check out the business?
How did they know you had a girlfriend?
I think they just assumed.
So just on the spur of the moment?
Yes, ma'am.
In between your 2 jobs in school, you ran in for a tan?
Correct.
And who was there when you got there?
I believe the lady sitting there was there when I got there.
Okay, keep going.
When I entered, I was greeted by her. I showed her the 2 cards, and I asked her, what were these good for? She informed me the tans were valid for 2 possible options, either 2 tans in a specific bed, I'm not sure what it was called, or 1 tan in the quick tan bed or the Bahama bed. So I asked her, well, what was the difference between the 2? And she said, well, the Bahama bed is a better bed, you'll tan faster. And I said, great, I'll take the Bahama bed, naturally on her advice.
You read a release form.
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Do you have a copy of the
Yes, Your
release
Honor,
form,
I do.
Mr. Schilling?
I have the form if you'd like
No,
to see
I
it,
have
Your
it
Honor.
right here. I think it's paragraph 6.
Shh. I like to read everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is a full general release from all liability because of your tanning. Now, go.
Following signing the release form, Your Honor, I went into the bed. I wasn't aware that the coupon was valid for any span of time. I was told 15-minute tan, just as if you get a coupon for another business, it's good for one thing and one thing only, so that's what I assumed.
Well, don't tell me what you assumed, sir. Did you ask, what's your name?
Christina.
You have a last name?
Herring.
Did you ask Miss Herring how long she advised you to use the Bahama bed?
No, Your Honor, I did not.
Why didn't you?
I did not ask her because I thought the coupon was valid for a specific service, and that service being a 15-minute tan.
A 15-minute tan?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, what made you think that, sir? As Groucho Marx would say, a little bird came down to tell you what?
No, Your Honor, I just assumed that that's what it was valid for. That's what I was told. It was 15-minute tan in the second bed, so that's what I assumed. It
Who
wasn't.
told you that?
Ms. Herring, I
Well,
believe
we
it was.
told me a moment ago, sir, you said that nobody told you that it was a 15-minute tan, that you just assumed it was a 15-minute tan. Let us not make things up as we're going along.
I'm not trying to make things up, Your Honor.
Okay. Did someone tell you about the length of time for the 2 different kinds of beds that were available?
Yes and no, Your Honor. The first bed, the amount of time was not specified. However, the second bed, I was told for 15 minutes, Your Honor.
Is that right?
No.
No. What did you tell him?
When he came in, I told him the difference between the 2 beds.
What did you tell him?
The low-pressure bed was a 20-minute max, and then the high-speed is a 15-minute max.
Okay, that sounds more reasonable. Did you tell him anything else?
I told him that I would not stick him in there for either of the time because he had fair skin, and he would burn.
Did you give him some idea of how long he should remain in there?
I told him I think that he should go in there for 7 to 9 minutes, and if he got hot, he should stop the bed and get out.
Who sets the time?
I do.
What did you set it for?
15.
Why?
Because he told me that's what he wanted.
Is that right?
No, Your Honor, that is completely untrue. She never mentioned anything about my skin type or me having fair skin, nor did she ask me, nor did I request to go for 15 minutes. And at the time, the day following, I was told she was brand new, so I don't believe that's true. I'm not going to sit here and argue with her on it.
You had second-degree burns?
Yes, ma'am.
Doctor's report.
I do.
When did you start to feel bad, sir?
About an hour after I got home, I started feeling a small burning sensation. I assumed it was just an after effect of
Go
the
ahead.
tan. I didn't really know better. However, that night, around, I'd say 1 o'clock in the morning, I awoke in terrible pain. My entire body had turned a deep reddish purple. And a few hours later is when I called Mr. Schilling's business and left a message on the phone explaining what had happened. Somebody could please call me. And also that the business opened at 9 and I would be expecting a call by 9:01 because I was in a lot of pain.
You want to say anything to me, Mr. Schilling?
Yes, Your Honor. I have been in the tanning business for about 5 years, and this is the first time that I've ever had a client get second-degree burns. And
How long had you been working, Christine, at this tanning salon on the 31st of August?
Since September.
This happened on August 31st.
Well, August 31st is when I started.
That was your first day?
Mm-hmm.
Where had you worked prior to that, Christine?
I've worked at veterinary hospitals, and I also have worked at 2 other tanning salons.
Which other tanning salons did you work for?
An Executive Tans, and then a Power Tanning in Waco, Texas.
What was the name of the tanning beds that are used in Mr. Schilling's establishment?
There's Low Pressure, the High...
The 2 other salons that you worked for, did you have the same equipment?
Yes, ma'am.
You had the same equipment?
Same type, yes.
I didn't ask you that. I said, did you have the same equipment?
Yes, ma'am.
The answer is no.
No, ma'am.
That right?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I had small blisters.
Says tanning salon owner Gerard Schilling owes for medical bills due to second-degree burns he received from one of Gerard's...
You can say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, all you like. I asked you a simple question. That deserves a simple, truthful answer. Did you have the same equipment in the other salons?
Yes, they were stand-ups and lay-downs. The same.
That's not what I asked you. I said, did you have the same equipment?
No, ma'am.
That's the answer. They're all tanning beds, but they're different equipment, different manufacturers, different intensities.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. This is your problem, Mr. Schilling. This is a general release, but the general release presupposes the following. The proper procedure to follow in the tanning room will be clearly explained by the attendant. What your attendant did was, if I am to believe her, and I'm not sure whether she's been completely honest. Is she still working for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe she learned a little bit. If she knew that because of his skin type, that he should not have been in that tanning booth for more than 8 minutes, and if I am to believe her, that she had experience before in at least similar kinds of equipment, then she never should have set this for 15 minutes. Now, if he walked in and set it himself for 15 minutes, despite the fact that she said, listen, I don't think you should use this for more than 8 minutes, that's your problem. That means you're pretty stupid. She gave you the right advice. You chose not to accept it. You got burned. That's what happens. You don't do the right thing. You act like an idiot. You get burned. But she said it for 15 minutes. And she said she knew that because of his type and because he wasn't a tanner, it was dangerous for him to be there for double that amount of time. And he got burned. And he got burned at your salon. And I hope she learned that, less is more. You can always increase it. But once it's done, you can't take it away. Right, Mr. Schilling?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. Go ahead. I'm listening.
As I said, I was in the tanning business for 5 years. And prior to that, when I was a kid in Coney Island, I used to go to Coney Island and get burned, really burned. But I never got second-degree burns. And that was my contention. I didn't believe that is second-degree burns. Second-degree burns have blistering. And I just thought I was being taken. And that's why I reacted that way. I am not disagreeing with...
That's what medical...
Yeah, but that's where he works, Your Honor.
Well, these are pretty bad burns, sir.
Okay.
And he was there for twice the amount of time that he should have been.
At his request.
Listen,
I agree. I'm not arguing with you.
You know what I'm talking about,
yes,
Mr.
I do.
Schilling?
Yes, I do.
If you had...
Yes, I do.
Somebody walk in who was a little demented and say, listen, I want to go into this tanning booth. It says I get a free tan here, and I want a half hour. You say, listen...
I understand philosophy. We rule.
You rule.
We rule.
Right.
Yes,
because it's not the healthiest of procedures to begin with, so you try to keep it as safe as you can.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So, now, coming back to you. When you were in the bed for 10 minutes, did you feel a little tingly? Look at me. When you were in the bed for about 10 minutes, did you feel a little tingly?
I did feel a small sensation, Your Honor, but nothing thermally.
11 minutes. Did you feel a little more tingly?
No, Your Honor.
12. 13.
No, Your Honor.
14.
It felt normal, almost constant throughout the tan, Your Honor. Just a constant level of heat onto my skin.
Now, when you went to the tanning place before, and you didn't go into a high-speed place before, and according to you, you went for 4 to 8 minutes.
Yes, Your Honor.
What made you think that you should go into this one for 15?
Well, Your Honor, I assume that Mr. Schilling's worker would probably know more about the business than I would.
She didn't get a master's degree in being a tanning salon.
Actually, Your Honor, according to his company, they're supposed to be Smart Tan certified, so in theory, she should have a certification in tanning.
Smart Tan.
Yes, Your Honor.
What about you?
I do not have any knowledge of tanning.
What about you? You have to have a little bit of smarts yourself.
Correct, Your Honor.
Why wouldn't you say, let me try this 8 minutes. If it works, I'll come back again in a week and get another tan. Don't you think that would be the intelligent thing to do?
Looking back on it now, Your Honor,
Yes, it would have been the intelligent thing to do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Have you been drinking?
says tanning salon owner Gerard Schilling owes for medical bills due to second-degree burns he received from one of Gerard's tanning beds.
Were you out of work, sir?
Yes, 2 days, Your Honor.
You have something from your employer indicating that?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it. And you work for this Denver Health? Is that where you work?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Well, you wrote a letter to the defendant, and you asked him for $208.96 in this letter.
Yes, Your Honor.
So how did the $208.96 transfer into $1,747?
Well, Your Honor, I hadn't had a chance to really think over what I was capable of doing legally, and I wasn't aware of the laws within my state regarding pain and suffering. So after reviewing the laws in my state and educating myself, I decided that I was entitled to a greater amount because I did endure unnecessary pain and suffering as a result of the negligence of his business, Your Honor.
And how much pain and suffering did you have?
I couldn't sleep. I could only lie on my side. I had small blisters all over my body. It was, I mean, you've been burned before, Your Honor. Very painful. I had to sit in the shower.
No, I never would go in a tanning booth for 15 minutes, sir. My mother did not raise idiots.
I understand, Your Honor. I had to sit in a cold shower. It was a lot of pain.
I happen to agree with you. I think that Mr. Schilling, despite the fact that he has modified his philosophy, put somebody in charge, at least on the unfortunate day when you got there, who did the wrong thing. And as cute as Christine is, she did the wrong thing. She should never have set that timer for 15 minutes. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
My wife is a registered nurse.
Sir, step forward, please.
Daniel Horan says former friend Ted Foster is responsible for a broken windshield. Ted says it was Daniel who missed a dunk tank and hit a car.
Mr. Horan, you and Mr. Foster are friends. Is that
Correct.
right? You've been friends for long. I invited to a barbecue at his house, and he provided some the people who were in attendance. How many people did you have at this barbecue, sir?
Approximately 40.
And you provided some games, and one of the games was a dunk tank, which means somebody sits over a thing of water and you throw a ball, and if you happen to hit the right place, the person falls into water. You tried that game, you threw a ball, and the ball went over past the backdrop of the dunk tank, over a fence, and shattered a neighbor's window.
Correct.
Did you pay the neighbor for the window?
I paid Ted $400
For what?
for damage deposit of their windshield.
What made you change your mind after you gave him the check, sir?
I never did. I had all intentions of taking him small claims court. Actually, I'd like to...
Well, what would you... Don't just answer my questions. I do this, not you.
Oh, good.
Well, if you had all intentions of taking him to small claims court, Mr. Horan, why did you give him the $400? Is not an answer, sir.
Oh, it's not either. It's... He agreed to settle it in small claims if I paid it.
Is that what you said to him?
Well, I gave him the check back and said we can just settle it in small claims court.
So I have a few brief questions for you. When they set up this dunk tank, did they send an attendant with it?
No, I just rented it from Hertz Rentals and set it up in the backyard.
And did they tell you how far to put it from other people or other people's property?
Well, my backyard is about 80 feet long, and the people were throwing from about 40 feet away.
So you gauged how much strength it would take to get beyond your property?
Yeah, because I have a 6-foot fence with a 2-foot trellis on top, and the ball carried over the backdrop of the dunk tank into an alley, which is an easement for 3 neighbors. These new neighbors I have never even met yet were moving into their house, and it hit their back window as they were driving in.
You broke the neighbor's window.
Judge, I do have pictures, if you would like to see them.
I wouldn't. Is it possible, Mr. Foster, that you set up this dunk tank too close to the neighbor's property?
No, because the property behind the fence is an alley. It's an easement. So it's technically my property.
Well, other people also have access to it, correct?
Yes.
Did you tell him that?
I told people as they were getting ready to throw the ball, take your own precautions.
You've never told me that.
Yeah, baloney.
Judge Judy continued.
We were charging $5 for 3 throws because we were dunking a friend.
Just a second. And what were you doing with the money?
We were putting it into our fantasy football championship fund.
Whose fantasy football championship fund? That's a mouthful.
All of the friends were at the party at play in a fantasy football league, so we were
I don't.
You were charging money. Was this the only game you were charging money for?
Yeah.
Really? Had Mr. Horan been drinking?
I can't say with 100% that he had before he threw the ball.
Had you been drinking?
Oh, I was on my second beer. I arrived to the...
Shh! Second beer is the answer. This is not an audition, Mr. Horan. This is an information gathering process. I gather the information, you provide the information. Got it?
Yeah.
Where did you get the beer?
Ted.
So in the event that you were a little bit high when you threw the ball, you got the ball from him. right?
Correct.
Was it a wild throw, sir? Look at me.
Yes.
So would you say, Mr. Haran, that you are partially responsible for throwing this wild ball?
Yes.
Perfect. And you, Mr. Foster, since you collected money for this game, and since you knew of this easement where other cars had the right to pass, even though it was your property, and since you indicated that it is possible that you did not set up this game for property, is it possible that you're partially responsible?
It's possible.
Then why wouldn't you resolve this without coming in here and bothering me? All right, the neighbor wants $400. Each of you will pay $200. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge
Burdette, step forward.
25-year-old Heather Brown is suing her neighbor, 27-year-old Angelia Burdette, for a shattered aquarium. Heather says Angelia was house-sitting at the time of the incident.
I have a claim and a counterclaim. Your claim, Miss Brown, is that you and Miss Burdette, who were friends and neighbors, I gather from your complaint, you had asked her to come in to take care of your fish tank and your house at some point. When you came back, you found that this large fish tank, which was a saltwater tank, very expensive, was broken, all the fish on the floor dead.
Right.
And the value of that, you say, was close to $5,000.
More than.
Ms. Burdette says that she did come into the house to take care of, I think, your dog. She was walking your dog and left her young son in the house. When she came back, she found the fish tank destroyed, the fish on the floor. Somehow a picture, according to her, fell off the wall all by itself and broke your fish tank. And she didn't clean up the mess, left the dead fish and everything else there, because she said that the week previous to that, or 2 weeks previous to that, she went into the hospital to have a baby, and you were watching her children. You have 2 boys who were very naughty little boys. They destroyed her house while you were supposed to be babysitting for them, and you didn't clean up that mess, so she didn't clean up yours. And she is counterclaiming for the destruction her own children did in her house. That's what the case is about. Let's start with your counterclaim, because that came first. When did you go into the hospital?
4th. I was 7 months pregnant, and they had to stop my labor.
Did they?
Yes.
And how old are your boys?
I have a 3-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Do you live with their father?
No, I do not.
Who's the father of this baby?
Warren.
Where does Warren live?
He doesn't live with me either.
Is Warren the father of the 3-year-old and the 9-year-old?
No, my 9-year-old's father died. And
the 3-year-old?
Me and him are just friends. He pays his child support and he takes care of his son.
But when you went into the hospital with regard to this pregnancy, you called Miss Brown to come and help you.
Right, because she was supposed to be my friend and I trusted her.
And she has her own children?
She has 1 child, a 10-year-old.
How long were you in the hospital?
Just 1 night.
What happened when you came home?
I came home to find mascara all over my walls, lip liner, lipstick, syrup poured into my carpet, a highlighter broken into my carpet. My bedroom blinds were tore up.
Who did that?
My 3-year-old, because she was supposed to be watching them, and she was outside.
How do you know it was your 3-year-old?
Because my 9-year-old wouldn't do that.
Was he in school, the 9-year-old?
He should have been.
Was he in school?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was watching the 3-year-old?
I was.
So how come all this mess happened?
It didn't. None of that happened. He did pour syrup on the carpets, and he got it on the upholstery of the couch. I went outside to smoke. I went outside to smoke. I was out there for probably an extended period of time, but as far as I knew, I had checked on him. He was sleeping. I checked on him every 15 minutes for an hour. Some people stopped by. I didn't want to take him into her house. It's not my place. I continued to check on him. When I came back in, he had broken the lock on the fridge. There's like a lock that she ties it. He had broken it, and pretty much a trail from the fridge to the back bedroom of syrup. When she got home, now let me explain the blinds, the stains on the carpet, the smell. Everything is already there.
Just a second. Shh. Miss Burdette, don't say anything. I asked you a question. You answered my questions. Now I'm looking to her.
Heather Brown claims neighbor Angelia Burdette owes for a shattered aquarium. Angelia is countersuing for damage to her home caused by her own kids.
Okay. So what you say is he did get up and he did cause damage to the carpet with the syrup and some of the upholstery.
Right, and I offered to pay for it. I said, look, you know, I was supposed to be watching him. I accept responsibility.
Good.
I will pay for the, you know, to have the people come in and shampoo it. Oh, no, it's fine, she says.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
No, I asked her to help me pay for it. She said she would. And when I went to go collect money, because I had the carpets cleaned right away, she said that she didn't have the money and she doesn't owe me anything.
Okay, just a second. She just said that she offered to pay to have the carpet cleaned. She accepted responsibility. How much did you pay to have the carpet cleaned?
The carpet cleaner, it was only $45 because I went through the company my apartments go through.
Fine.
And I have an income.
Just a second. 1 second. So she's going to pay for $45. Where's $2,076?
Because my son got into the mascara and put it on my walls, and nothing really takes off that mascara. They have to
So what did you do?
They have to strip my walls.
They have to strip your walls?
Yeah, with paint thinner to get the mascara off.
That's not true.
Yeah, Miss Burdett, be a little creative. I feel you're a creative lady. Be creative.
I have the proposal from the paint company right here.
You have pictures of the walls?
Yeah.
Let me see the pictures of the walls.
She's got pictures of a cabinet.
And there's the walls. They don't show in. You have to look very closely at the wall.
Just a minute. Oh, no. He didn't do this. He didn't do that to the blinds. And this is one panel that you're showing me. Looks like a vanity.
Your Honor, there's 12 colors.
Listen to me. Shh. This looks like a panel in a vanity. Is that right?
This is the cupboard before I washed, because I tried to...
Get some white paint and paint it.
White paint won't go over. It'll just go through.
Get some paint thinner and take it off and repaint it. I don't see where $45 becomes $2,076. All right, so you have to give her $45 to shampoo the carpet.
Gladly.
That's what you spent for cleaning the carpet. It was your responsibility.
Absolutely.
When you're supposed to watch a 3-year-old, you watch a 3-year-old. You don't go outside to smoke and watch him every 15 minutes because you're just lucky that he didn't hurt himself. Because that, too, would have been your responsibility. Now let's get to your fish tank. You have pictures of the tank?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to see them, please.
This is before. That's after.
How big was this tank?
It was about 6 1/4, 6 foot, 6 1/2. It's very big.
You have any of the bills for the tank?
No, it was bought years ago. I have a quote for what it would cost to replace. That's it.
Can I see that, please? How many fish did you have in the tank?
3 or 4. It was actually mostly coral, live coral. Very hard to raise and maintain.
Was it a 135-gallon tank?
No. It was a 70-gallon tank.
Well, then why are you replacing it with a 135-gallon tank?
Oh, you know what? I don't know. I told him 70-gallon, and that's what he mailed me.
Then this quote is twice as big as what you had.
Right. Yes, you're right.
Of course. You don't know what happened inside, is that right?
Right. My 9-year-old was...
Shh. All you know was that you went outside and left your 9-year-old inside, unsupervised.
Playing PlayStation.
Unsupervised.
Yeah.
Just like she left your 3-year-old unsupervised.
There's a difference between a 3-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Oh, yeah, 9-year-old can cause a lot more damage. That's a difference.
And it's somebody else's house.
Hey, listen. 9-year-old can cause a lot more damage. So what you would have me believe is that when you went outside and left your 9-year-old unsupervised in the house with this attractive nuisance of a huge fish tank with fish in it, a picture which had been hanging on the wall for years, miraculously at that moment, fell off the wall all by itself and broke the fish tank. That is your defense.
That's what my son told me. And
That's your defense. Yeah. Well, your son's a liar. If you believe me, you're an idiot. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500.
Of Coates versus Grace. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated and have a seat.
Mr. Coates, the defendant is your former wife, and you have a child together.
That's correct.
How old is your child?
He's 5.
It is your claim that your former wife abducted the child out of the jurisdiction.
That's correct.
And that cost you a substantial amount of money in order to regain the rights that had been provided for you pursuant to your judgment of divorce, your visitation rights. You want your former wife to compensate you for all you went through and all your expenses in securing your son back in this jurisdiction. The former wife says that a substantial amount of time went by. You never contacted her. She said she moved to Las Vegas from California when she hadn't heard from you. She subsequently moved back, but she is counterclaiming that you made false reports to Child Protective Services about her. You never showed up for a hearing, so she's counterclaiming for a whole bunch of expenses. Okay. When were you married, Mr. Coates, and when were you divorced?
Married in 2001.
What month?
August.
Why are you asking me? I wasn't there.
I don't...
It was
Why?
It was May, sorry.
When did you separate?
11 months after that.
When were you divorced?
It went through in August of 2004.
I wasn't there either.
Yeah.
Is that right?
August 2004, it was final.
And that was all done in the state of California?
Yes, correct.
That's where the child was born?
Yes.
Was it a contested or an uncontested divorce?
It went into default. I was never served. I never knew that there was even a divorce proceeding in place.
Your Honor, that's not...
Just one second. Oh, I have some questions about that. It was default. You never knew that there was a divorce. Is that what you're saying? And you were never served?
That's correct.
Well, I assume you woke up one morning and said, my wife and son aren't here anymore. So you knew you were separated?
We were separated, yes.
We still had contact.
Regularly?
Yes. I would pick him up from school. He would stay at my home.
Every week?
So, yeah, every week.
And you're telling me that you were never served with a copy of the judgment of divorce?
No.
Never served with a summons and complaint?
No.
When did you find out that you were divorced?
After it had already gone into default.
And when was that?
That was in October, November 2005.
Did you contest that and say, I had not been served?
Yes, I wanted there to be a custody and visitation set.
What about child support?
I received notification that it was going to be garnished. I never received a child support order.
Mr. Coates, have you been moving around a lot, sir?
No.
Well, it's sort of interesting because you got a support order and you weren't served with it. You got divorced and you weren't served with it. You're just one glaring example of a justice system failed, Mr. Coates. Isn't it interesting? You filed this lawsuit against your former wife. Was she served?
Yes, she was.
Did she appear?
Not the first time, no.
She's here now.
She's here now. I didn't know where she was until the court contacted her and notified me where she was.
If you didn't know where she was, how could she be served?
I knew her last known address.
But she didn't live there.
I had tried to contact her. I'd sent her letters, multiple letters, contacting her.
All right, Mr. Coates, let's stop playing with each other, sir.
Okay.
You know, in this game of playing with Mr. Coates, you know who's going to win?
Yes.
Right. Right. What's your child support order, sir?
It's for $350 every 2 weeks.
Why are you asking me? I don't pay it. You pay it. Everything ends in a question mark.
I'm not asking. I'm just saying.
When did that start to come out of your check?
In 2003.
When in 2003?
June.
A year after you separated?
Yes.
Well, how much support were you paying for the year that you were separated?
I was giving her over $500 a month.
It's crazy. Between June 2002 and June of 2003, was Mr. Coates sending you $500 plus a month for the support of your son?
No, and the garnishment started in February of 2003.
How much was he sending you between June of 2002 and February of 2003?
Nothing consistent. He didn't work a lot of that time, so when he didn't work, I didn't get any money from him. When he did, he would give me $200 every 2 weeks. And, Your Honor, I haven't received a child support payment since July of 2005.
Do you know why the garnishment stopped?
Yes.
Why?
I was changing jobs from Wellpoint to Washington Mutual. I had informed her that the services would stop, and then I was bringing charges to the child support and district attorney's office, and I was notifying her that she wouldn't be receiving child support until we went to court for custody and visitation.
Just a second. You had no intention of supporting your child?
I didn't say I had no intention, but I was...
Well, how much did you send between July and December?
Let's see, she received $2,150
When?
That was last December.
Listen to me very carefully.
Specific date?
July, August, September, October, November. How much money did she receive? July?
July?
Nothing.
Nothing.
August?
Nothing.
September?
I had nowhere to send it.
September?
September, nothing.
October?
Nothing.
November?
Nothing.
When did you relocate to Nevada?
August 21st, 2005.
Put your hand down. Why did you stop sending money in July?
That's when I was changing jobs. They were garnishing my wages, so they just would take the check out and send it.
Did you notify your new job that they should execute a wage attachment and start sending her money?
No, I did not notify. I didn't know I was supposed to notify them.
Well, you knew when you changed jobs that they weren't taking the money out of your salary, Mr. Coates. Is that right?
That's correct.
Why didn't you take that money when she was still here and send it to her?
I was not aware that she was still here. I did not know where she was.
No,
I had made
that's not
several
true.
attempts. I'd sent letters to her house several times with certified return receipt and had no reply.
Just a second. How far did you live from where she lived?
Just maybe 30, 40 minutes away. Maybe.
Take a ride. Take a ride. Don't you want to see your son?
Yes.
So why didn't you take a ride?
To her residence?
Yes.
That didn't seem very safe to me.
Why not?
I had not received any notification from her at the time that I went to...
Well, when was the last time you saw your son?
I saw him October 31st.
Of what year?
Of 2005.
We're not talking about
Prior
that.
to that?
So we're talking about before that.
August,
we're
when I
talking
picked him
about
up.
before she left for Nevada.
I didn't know where she was prior to when she left for Nevada.
Prior to leaving for Nevada, she lived in the same place, sir.
Yes.
And I'm asking you, when did you see your son?
After April, I had not seen him.
Why not?
See him at the daycare. They called actually LAPD.
So you saw him in April.
Yes. I picked him up for his birthday week.
Where did you pick him up from?
From the daycare.
So you had no trouble?
No.
Good. When did you have trouble at the daycare?
When I tried to pick him up again to visit him. After she had called the police when I picked him up the original time, saying that I had kidnapped him when I...
Did you have permission to pick him up from the daycare?
I didn't know I needed permission. I had chose the daycare.
Were you divorced at the time?
Yes. It still stated equal and reasonable visitation, but I thought that was reasonable, that I see my child.
Did you now?
Yes.
Did you call her before you picked him up on his birthday?
No, you're not.
Do you see in this game that you're playing with me, you're not going to win?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What you did was a little self-help.
I had made several attempts to go.
Listen, Mr. Coates, you may be able to fool around with some people. You're not going to fool around with me. I have 35 years in this business.
Play the PDSA Weekly Lottery and you can be a winner like...
Ex-wife Shannon Grace unlawfully moved their son out of state. Shannon is countersuing, claiming Brandon made false accusations to Child Protective Services.
Mr. Coates, a parent who wants to see their child and who doesn't see their child for a week goes to court, files a petition, says, I haven't seen my child in a week. I want to see my child. You went to the daycare in April, picked the child up once. She called the police. She said he has no right to go there and pick up the child without even contacting me first. She's absolutely right. Put your hand down.
Okay,
Does it sound like you're having a problem yet?
No,
I'll get to you in a minute. When did you go to court after that, seeking immediate relief so that you could get a fixed order?
I did attempt to seek immediate relief. I have several attempts made. One was in September.
I'm not talking September, sir. This was you're talking to me in April.
I had tried to contact
April,
her
May, June,
personally.
July, August. I'm saying a parent wakes up and says, I haven't seen my kid in a week.
We had brief contact over the phone. We would constantly argue. I was trying to set up some kind of mediation. I had no response. I went to the police department. I think it's unfair that she practically changed her phone number, doesn't respond to any letters. I have no way to contact her. I don't have any updated phone number.
Mr. Coates, I'm going to tell you something, sir. There is no question in my mind that there were substantial periods of time when you did not see him. And when you went to pick him up on his birthday because you thought that that was perfectly fine to do without giving the mother any notice and saying, gee, I'd like to, I'm speaking, that you were playing around. You were exercising your muscle. You weren't doing the right thing for your child, certainly, because the child should never be placed in the middle of the two of you if she was acting in an immature fashion. If she was, that doesn't mean that you respond in an immature fashion by going to his daycare and picking him up without giving her notification first. Yeah, I'm listening.
I had made several attempts to contact her prior to me going to picking him up in April.
And?
I had not received a response. She turned her phone off. I tried to call her.
Then you go to court. Show me where you went to court in April prior to going to the daycare center. Show me. And I will rest my case. Show me. You didn't.
Yes,
what you did was a little self-help. You just went there and picked him up.
After I had not seen him for some time, I made several attempts to contact her. Yes.
If you knew where the child was, it's very easy to find the mother.
I had made several attempts to go
Listen,
to
Mr. Coates, you may be able to fool around with some people. You're not going to fool around with me. I have 35 years in this business. So if you had expenses that you had to go through because she went to Nevada, because you've been jerking her around for months, and for a very long time, because of course, 2003, you said I gave her $500 plus a month for your child. And I'm prepared to say to you unequivocally that that is a lie.
It's untrue, Your Honor.
Really?
Even when I did not work, she still continued to receive support, Your Honor. Even when I was not working. It might have been not what she was accustomed to, but she continuously got the...
No, listen to me, sir. You testified a moment ago that you gave her $500 plus a month, every month, from June of 2002 until June of 2003. Is now that you're telling me that sometimes it may have been a little less than that?
Sometimes it was a little more.
No,
yes,
that's not what I asked you. I said was sometimes a little bit less.
And sometimes it was a little more.
I don't care about more. I asked you about less.
Yes, it was, on occasion.
That's all. Okay. You have an order of visitation of custody now?
No, I'm still waiting.
We're in 2006 now, sir. What have you been doing with yourself?
If you would just look, there's several attempts made to contact her. There's several attempts made to at least contact the court, the child support agency, to find out where she was, where she'd serve her. I mean, I don't know what...
Miss Grace, are you back in California now?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been there?
Since about November 15th. It was right before Thanksgiving.
Okay. Since November of 2005. Has Mr. Coates seen his son?
No.
When was the time immediately preceding that Mr. Coates saw his son?
October 28th. We had court October 26th.
Of 2005?
2005. And I've always wanted Xavier to have a relationship with Brandon, so when I saw Brandon in court, I said, if you want to see him, that's fine. You know, you can see him. And Brandon came to the house with me. Xavier was very shy.
Came to the house where?
To my grandma's house where I'm staying in Granada Hills. The address that I'm at in Granada Hills.
Just a second. So Mr. Coates actually in October came to your house?
Yes, he came and hugged my mom and said hi to my grandma.
Keep going.
So Xavier was shy. He was kind of hiding from him. So the three of us hung out for a while. My son seemed like he was getting used to him, so I told him he could go ahead and take him on Friday, which I believe is October 28th. He said he was going to take him to Disneyland on Saturday. On Saturday, he called in the evening and said, we didn't make it to Disneyland today. We're going to go tomorrow. And I said, still trying to be cooperative, I said, it's okay for this time, but in the future, just stick to the plan. And he said, fine. So Sunday night, he sent me a text message that they were on their way home from Disneyland. And he never came home Sunday night, never called, didn't answer my phone calls. I was frantically leaving messages. That night, in the middle of the night, 1 or 2 in the morning, I went to the police station. And I was nervous because he told me he was bringing him back. I didn't know if they got into a car accident or if he just wasn't bringing him back.
Keep going.
So I filed a report that night, and then the next day he still wasn't back. I went to the address that Brandon had given me, and no one was there. So I called the police again. So the police went to Brandon's job, and Brandon was at work, and my son wasn't with him. And he just decided that he was going to keep him.
Where was he?
He was with my grandmother. I didn't think it was right to send my child back and not know when I'm going to see him again.
Mr. Coates, I am very sensitive to the rights of non-custodial parents to see their children. I'm particularly very sensitive to fathers who are deprived of visitation, deprived of custody, because I think that it is the right of every child to have the love and support of 2 parents. But I can tell someone who's a manipulator from someone who is genuinely interested in seeing their child and seeing the right thing happen with their child. You explain to me why, if you picked up the child and said to his mother, who said to you, come back to my mother's house, you want to see Xavier, you want to take him for the weekend, I'm sure he'd like to spend time with you. You take your son, and then you don't return him.
Yes.
And you went to pick him up at the daycare without giving her any notice. I might try to escape the state from you, too. I'm not excusing Miss Grace from leaving the jurisdiction. Before you leave the jurisdiction, you have the responsibility to contact child's father and doing. Father says, I don't want you to go. If you can't come to terms, a court will give you that right. But I have a sense that Mr. Coates wasn't right there as a participating parent, because according to you, Mr. Coates, the justice system failed you. You weren't properly served. You weren't served with your judgment of divorce. You weren't served with an action for divorce. You weren't served with an action for child support. You weren't served with the order of child support. The whole justice system failed you. Everything's failed you. And I want to tell you something, Mr. Coates. I don't believe that. Now I'll hear you.
Okay, Your Honor. He spent most of the time with me during that period. I was working the night shift from the afternoon to the midnight. He would stay with me every morning, every afternoon. I would walk him to daycare.
Just a second, from what period to what period, Mr. Coates? Give me the month and year.
June of 2003, up until the point where Shen decided to discontinue all contact.
Where were you from June of 2002 till June of 2003?
I was staying with my mother, where I regularly saw him as well. And then I got my own place with a roommate, where I was regularly seeing him there as well.
Is that true?
No. It was my idea when he started working that shift that was 4 o'clock to midnight. I thought that, you know, that would be a good idea, that he could watch Xavier during the day, but he wouldn't do it. He was out all night. He slept all day. It didn't work out.
Lied.
On April 2nd, the first day that he took him from daycare, I didn't know where he was. His father didn't know where he was. His sister didn't know where he was. I was especially afraid because I'm not used to being away from my son.
Did he bring him back?
There was a lot of back and forth with the police, and he brought him back that Sunday.
Yes, Mr. Coates.
Okay. Prior to that, I had made several attempts to contact her. She did not reply. I went and picked him up the weekend of his birthday. She called the police. They called me. I called her directly back and said I picked him up for his birthday. She stated that he had a birthday party on Sunday. I had him that Friday and Saturday. I returned him on Sunday so he could have the birthday party that she had planned for him. And that's when she, again, no contact. Haven't heard from him.
Grow up. Good luck to you. He's a manipulator. Put your hand down. Mr. Coates, I hope that the family court judge before whom you appear understands the fact that you are not one of those fathers that's been deprived of his rights. You are one of those fathers that works the system. And you would also like to see your son, but it's going to be convenient and by your terms. And maybe that's the way it was with her when you were married.
Untrue,
that's not the way it's going to be anymore.
And, Your Honor, also he's saying that we have equal custody, and we don't. I have sole custody.
Oh, yeah, I was never served with that either.
It's the same.
But she had my address.
You are just, Mr. Coates, one sad victim of the justice system.
So sad.
Madam, you did the wrong thing by moving. I am not awarding you anything on your counterclaim, but I'm telling you, you have to see to it that as difficult as he is, that your son get to see him on a regular basis. Do you understand?
Yes, I agree with you. I've tried to do as much as I can for my son to have a
But if he's going to take off, Mr. Coates, it's going to be under a supervised situation. That's what I would do with you until you can demonstrate that you're not going to take off with him.
Your Honor?
I didn't leave the state. My address is known. All my information has been known.
Do me a favor. Escort him outside. I'm finished with him.
Okay. Versus Menard Crane.
Drew Dalton is suing his former friends, Arena Menard and her husband, David Crane, for several unpaid loans.
Now, Mr. Dalton, these two people were friends of yours.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, you made a series of loans to both of them. You made one or more of these small loans. You sort of got disgusted because they hadn't paid you anything back.
No.
So you said, listen, let me finish. I'm going to give you a broad stroke, Mr. Dalton, and then I'm going to get down to what I'm going to do today. So you said, listen, you haven't paid me back money that I lent him, Mr. Crane, and so I need some collateral for these loans. And you took as collateral the title to their car.
Wait till she's done.
And then, according to you, you saw they were spending money on other stuff, and you didn't get any of your money back, and then you were afraid they were going to move out of town. To make a long story short, the car is now an impound. You want the money that you loaned them, or in the alternative, since you've repossessed the collateral, you want an order saying the car belongs to you.
One of the two?
Right? Quiet.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you want an order that says the car belongs to you so that it'll be released to you, or in the alternative, the value of the car.
Yes.
So when it really comes down to it, and I've read through both your complaints and the answer, you want me to make a decision whose car this is.
Yes.
Because if it's your car, because it was the collateral on a defaulted loan, you'll get an order that says to the sheriff to release the car to you. And if I find that it was not collateral on the loan, that he wrongfully took possession of this car, you will get an order that says the car belongs to you. Right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Drew Dalton says former friends Irina Menard and husband David Crane owe for several loans. Irina and David are countersuing, claiming Drew stole their car.
So, Mr. Dalton, you made a series of loans to them.
Yes, I made, can I speak?
Now you can speak.
Okay. I made a loan to Mr. Crane for $1,000, and he was supposed to go out on a fishing trip and come back and then pay me when he got back in
fishing
October.
Work?
He worked for a fishing boat. And well, he's gone. I made some loans to Irina, which totaled up to like $300.
That is not true.
And
how much did he give you, Mr. Crane?
Give me $1,000.
Why did you ask Mr. Dalton for $1,000?
So me and Irina, my wife now, so go get married. Surprise her and go get married.
Why would he give you $1,000? Is he a very rich man?
I don't know about that.
When were you supposed to pay him back?
Upon returning from my fishing trip.
Okay. And did you go on your fishing trip?
Yes, I did.
Did you come back from your fishing trip?
Yes, I did.
Did you pay him the money?
No, not at that time. But we later discussed payments to him,
Yeah,
and both of us agreed upon that, that we were going to make the payments out.
Just a second. So you defaulted on the loan initially?
Yes.
Fine. And you didn't give him the $1,000?
I took off.
When you were supposed to?
No.
When did you get back from your fishing trip?
September 2nd. No, excuse me. It was on October 27th.
Yeah, close to.
When did he give you the $1,000?
First week of September.
And you got back almost 2 months later?
Yeah, almost 2 months.
And when did you make your first payment to him on this revised schedule?
He didn't get a chance to make the payment because of the fact that...
Because he took off.
We didn't get a chance to make the payment because I was the one that was always in constant contact with him. We talked about it, and I told him that we were having problems with the payments, that he has to find another job because he didn't want to be a fisherman anymore because he came back from his fishing trip and his captain burned him practically for $6,000. But that's why...
Where were you working?
I wasn't working.
Why not?
Because I'm an SSI recipient.
For what?
For my back.
What's wrong with your back?
I have severe scoliosis, and I was born without 2 discs in my back.
You walked in here just fine.
I know this, but I know it's a painful thing every day. It's 24/7. They want me to have surgery, and I refuse to have surgery.
They want you to have surgery.
I'm afraid of the surgery.
To cure the pain, so that you could work and you wouldn't cry anymore, and you wouldn't be in constant pain, and you have decided not to have the surgery.
I'm afraid of the surgery, yes, ma'am, because one back surgery leads to another.
How long have you been on SSI?
A year.
Prior to that, what were you doing?
Trying to get a job. And then they told me that
When was the last time you were employed on a full-time basis?
When I lived in Florida.
How long ago?
It's been a while. 3 years. When did I go? I'm not sure, ma'am. I don't know.
You mean you don't know when the last time you worked is?
Well, yeah, when we lived in Florida 2 years ago.
Give me a year.
3 years ago.
You have children?
Yes, I do, but they don't live with me.
Who do they live with?
They live in Ukaipa. They're grown. Well, not grown all the way, but grown.
How old are they?
19, 17, 16, and 14.
Who do they live with?
2 of them I had to have adopted out because my ex-husband refused to be a father, and I couldn't take care of them. And my daughters live with their grandmother on their dad's side.
Now I'll hear you, sir.
Okay, you forgot to mention that when he came back from the fishing trip and he bought a car, he bought a fur coat, bought a diamond ring.
Bought a fur coat for who?
For
What does she need a fur coat for in bed?
I don't know.
Excuse me, yeah.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
And then, I'm going, well, where's my money? And he's telling me, give me a story. And then they take off to Alaska.
We didn't go to Alaska.
And I'm gone.
Don't speak.
I'm out of my money.
Just a second.
They took off, left town, didn't tell me nothing. They just split. And so I thought I lost my money right there.
Then they came back.
Then they came back.
How did they travel to Alaska?
In a car.
She was able to sit in a car
Well,
long enough to get her to Alaska? Sit in a car? Who are you?
Witness for the defendants.
What are you laughing at, sir? You think it's funny that the public is probably being scammed by this lady? You think that that's a riot?
No, she's not. She's not trying to scam anyone.
Sir, let me explain something to you. SSI was not intended for people who choose not to relieve their pain from having surgery. And if you can live and move around and get from there to there, then you can get a job.
I've tried to get
J-O-B. Get a job on a telephone, sitting in your living room making calls. You sit in your living room, watch TV. Get a job as a telemarketer. Get a job doing something when you owe money. Car belongs to you, sir.
Thank you.
I will enter an order that they defaulted on their loan, as a result of which you repossessed the car. The car is rightfully yours. Put your hand down, and that order will be cut within the next 10 minutes. Thank you very much. That's all.
Pardon, excuse me. Finch versus Valeri. Parties have been sworn. You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in. Your Honor, you may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Miss Pinch, how old are you?
24.
According to your complaint, you and the defendant have 2 children together. You are expecting a third. You are unmarried. You live together with the defendant in an apartment in which you both signed the lease. He moved out after you got a protective order against him, and you want the following. You want him to pay for his share of the remainder of the rent on the apartment. You want him to pay half of the medical bills that you had for one of your children who was in an accident. And you want him to pay for the balance on a car that you say he promised to pay. Mr. Valeri says that you threw him out of the apartment, falsely claiming domestic violence. He says that the accident was caused by your negligence to your son because you should have been taking better care of the child. And as far as the car was concerned, the car has always been your car, and he has no intention of paying for it. He is counterclaiming because he says that you filed an order of protection against him. The allegations that you made against him were false. The order of protection was subsequently dismissed, and he wants to be compensated for his expenses with regard to that order of protection. How old are you, Mr. Valeri?
26, ma'am.
And how old are your children?
3 and 1.
Is there any reason why the two of you didn't solidify this relationship you have by getting married? I'm just always interested in this.
Well, basically, we were looking to do that when I had my last son. And then, with this situation that happened, I found out I was pregnant, had the complications with my pregnancy, and at that point in time, that's when he just started seeing other people, and we had the domestic violence problems.
Well, I'm talking about why you didn't get married before you had your first child.
We talked about it several times, but he never had a ring for me, never had nothing.
Just had a baby?
Just had a baby, basically, yeah, unfortunately.
He didn't do that alone?
No, I did that also.
You know that there are things that you can do to prevent that from happening?
Yes.
When did you sign this lease?
That would have been February of 2005.
And where were you working at the time?
MRS Associates, being a bill collector.
And where were you working, Mr. Valeri?
I wasn't working at that time, but I got a job around July, and I was working at
What were
J.E.
you doing
Berkowitz.
between February and July? Stop playing with the papers.
I was on parole and everything, and I just
Parole is not a job.
I know.
Parole is not, as a matter of fact, when you're on parole, you're supposed to have a job.
I know. I was working in between places at the time.
In between what places?
McDonald's. It was hard for me to find a job because
What were you on parole for?
I had CDS charges.
CDS.
Controlled dangerous substance.
Sale or possession?
Sales.
Had you served any time in prison?
Yes, 5 years.
From when to when?
July 2000 till February 2004, almost 2005.
So where were these children conceived?
I got released during a time from a program through prison. It's a halfway house, and I met her after 2 years. Got together. She got pregnant. Planned on staying together.
All right. What was the rent on this apartment?
$650 a month, and he was working at that time.
Okay. Now, when did you have him removed from the apartment? August of 05?
Yes, August of 05.
Tell me what happened.
I came in from work one day. At this point in time, he wasn't working. He had gotten fired for not working. I had no formula for the child. He said he had to go to a friend's house. Needless to say, hours later, he came back drinking. I went out front of our apartment, and he was on a bike at that time, and I stood in front of the bike and, asked me, why would you do this? Our son had no formula. I had to call somebody to watch the kids and find a ride to the store to get the formula. And at this point in time, he was like, oh, well, you can't control me. I said, we needed formula for our child. At that point in time, he proceeded to shove the bike forward, and I fell back into my steps and smacked my head on the steps. I got up and I told him, "You're not going to put your hands on me. I'm going to call the police." And he took off on the bike. When the police came, they took the report of the incident, and Andrew did not come back until the next morning.
All right, I'd like to see the report you filed. All right, Mr. Valeri, you want to tell me your version of what happened?
Basically, I had my cousin there. He was watching my son at the time. I had asked her if she could get formula because she was going to work and she was getting through WIC. My name was assigned on a check, so I had somebody else go get it, which was her. She got the formula for my son that day.
Who was this lady?
This is my girlfriend now, Jen.
So you were watching your children and you had your girlfriend over at the house at the time?
No, my cousin was there.
You said just told me she went to get the formula.
She lives down the street. We were friends at the time. She was friends with her, too.
Okay. So you asked your then neighbor and friend, now your girlfriend, to go get the formula for the baby. And I assume you're going to tell me you went to get the formula for the baby. Fine. And then what happened?
I went out for a little bit afterwards. My cousin said he'd watch my son.
Was she home when you went out?
No.
When you came home, who was home?
When I came in,
look at me.
When I came in at 5 o'clock, it was Andrew, my son, Devin, and Nathan, my other son.
Where's the cousin?
There was no cousin.
Okay.
At this point in time,
all right.
The girl, Jennifer, the witness, I didn't even know her.
Okay, so you left your cousin, and where did you go?
I went out over a friend's house.
To do what?
A little bit.
Well, she's just coming back from work. Well, who's going to do dinner and take care of the kids? Huh? And you haven't worked all day?
No.
So what happened? So you went over to your friend's house and?
I came back. I wasn't drinking or nothing like that. I went over for a little bit, for like a half an hour. I wasn't even gone a half an hour, and I came back, and she started yelling at me, telling me I'm no good, this, that, the third, and just basically discriminating against me, saying what she can, just to
She was being verbally abusive to you?
Correct.
Go ahead. Keep going.
She just came to my face, started yelling, cursing at me and everything, pointing at me, so I decided to leave. And I left for the night because I didn't want to come back to it. And I come back and police are called on me and saying I hit her. I didn't know nothing about it. I didn't ever touch her.
My sister was a witness to this. She was walking up the street while this happened. I mean, she can testify to what
I'd
happened.
like to hear her. Step up. Your last name?
Rush.
Miss Rush, I want you to be very careful when you testify before me. Do you understand?
Okay.
I'm like a truth machine. When I don't get the truth, the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Now, I'm telling you that that's true. I want you to bear that in mind when you're telling me what you're going to tell me about that evening in August.
Okay. I got a call.
No, don't look down there. You look here.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There wasn't...
Andrew Valeri owes for rent, medical bills, and his share of a Chevy Lumina. Andrew was countersuing, claiming he was falsely accused of domestic violence.
You got a call from?
My sister, when she got home from work at 5. There was no cousin there.
Don't tell me what there wasn't.
Okay.
Just tell me the conversation that you had with your sister.
She called me and said that Andy just left and she needed someone to watch the kids.
So what did you do?
I watched the kids for her.
For how long?
Probably for about 45 minutes for her to go get formula. She had to find a ride.
Who did she find a ride with?
I don't know.
Who did you find a ride with?
With my neighbor, Mike.
Mike what?
I don't know his last name, ma'am. It was just a neighbor on the street.
So what did you do? You walked over to the neighbor's house?
Yeah, I walked down to the neighbor's house, and he drove me to CVS, and then he gave me a ride back.
Are you at the same house now?
No.
When did you move out of the house?
October, because I was not able to work.
Just a second. October 2005, you left. Where did you go?
I had to move back in with my parents.
So what are you suing for half the rent for?
Because I have to pay for half the rent still. I was not able to work because I got injured.
Just a second.
With complications
Nobody
with the pregnancy.
has. Just a second. Has somebody sued you for half the rent?
The landlord, I have the documentation.
Has somebody sued you for half the rent?
Not yet, no.
All right. Well, when somebody sues you for half the rent, you come back.
I can't move into a house with my children, man. I'm living in 2 rooms with my 3 kids.
Listen to me very carefully. You did not pay the rent.
Neither did he.
Miss Finch. All right. Thank you very much. You can sit down. I'll get back to you in a minute. Now, leaving the rent aside, because you moved out of the house, something you didn't tell me in your complaint, let us move to what happened with your son, which caused medical bills.
Okay, with my son, I
Look at me.
was giving him a bath, and there was a
When?
situation at my apartment.
When?
The beginning of October.
October, you were still living
Yes,
in the
I was
apartment?
still at the apartment. I didn't leave the apartment until the very end of October.
October, you're living in the apartment, and you're giving your son a bath. Is
Yes.
that the 3-year-old or the 1-year-old?
No, that was the 5-month-old at the time.
What happened?
The bath ring had tipped over, and he had almost drowned.
Explain to me how that happened.
I had to step out of the bathroom real quick.
Just a second.
It got conclusive as it was accident in the other courts, so it was an accident. It's already gotten ruled at. So with this, there's been other medical bills that have arose after that for him being sick with colds, with ear infections.
What caused?
That is the bills that I'm trying to get. I can't provide insurance for my kids because I can't work, because I have this pregnancy with his other child. So how am I supposed to provide my kids with medical coverage if I can't work because I have a high-risk pregnancy? I can't. So therefore, I can't take my children to the hospital.
Listen, this is a very sad story you're telling me, Miss Pinch. You're telling me a very, very sad story, but the sad story doesn't translate into a contract, not a contract with regard to the rent, because you haven't been sued by the landlord. He probably is just very happy to get rid of you. And with regard to the baby, I don't care what another court ruled an accident. An accident doesn't happen to a 5-month-old baby who's taking a bath and the mother walks out of the room for a second. What caused you to leave? Look at me. What caused you to leave the room for a second?
Because I was trying to get a phone so I could try to get something to help me pay my rent that I was already, and my electric bill real quick. Right, the bathroom was connected. You could see in the bathroom from where I was going to get the phone. It was a brief moment, ma'am. 15 to 20 seconds. No, it's not right. But it was an accident. I had a misjudgment that was not good. And I mean, there's nothing I can say. So yes, that was very bad. But I did not mean it. And the problem here is that there's other bills.
Stop. Let's get to the car. In whose name is this car that you want him to pay for half of?
Both of our names.
Let me see.
The yellow page is the original contract. The white one is the statement from Friday.
Do you have the registration on the car?
No.
Why?
Because the car was totaled.
Well, why don't you tell me about it?
I was on the way from home from work. There's a torrential downpour, and in order for me to get home, I had to drive through a puddle. When I went through the puddle, the vehicle had stalled. I got it towed home, and the insurance company picked it up and totaled the car out.
That must have been some big puddle.
It was pretty bad around
Let me hear.
Basically, they said that the engine was hydrolocked. That's a process where water gets sucked into the engine and ruins the pistons and valves and everything.
Did you sign, Mr. Valeri?
Correct.
On this loan? So you want him to pay half of the loan?
Yes.
Directly to the company?
Yeah, that's fine. That's also with the apartment. I mean,
the apartment, you get nothing. You moved out of the apartment. And as far as the baby is concerned, you take care of the baby's bills. Next time, you won't walk out to go to a phone and leave a baby in the bathtub. So somebody else may have found that it was an accident. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't on purpose. You didn't do it on purpose. But you purposefully left a baby in a bathtub to go out and make a phone call. You purposely did that. That wasn't something, you didn't faint. There wasn't an earthquake. There wasn't a lightning strike. You purposely left a 5-month-old baby that almost drowned in the bathtub. You take care of the medical bills. Sir, next time you learn a little bit better. Don't co-sign for a car unless you're prepared to accept responsibility if something happens. Do you understand?
Yes.
I mean, because this woman has the judgment of a P, doesn't mean that you get off the hook purposely. Because two can play this I got to be careful game. And if you have hooked up with somebody that's got the judgment of the P, you don't have 3 children with her. Do you understand? There are other things that you can do also. Yes. Right? You're going to pay half this amount in a check made payable directly to the loan company. Not to her, because I don't trust her to take care of it. Directly to the loan company. That means that you have to pay the other half as soon as they find you and find out where you're working. All right. Now, let's get to your counterclaim.
Okay.
You have to pay $2,000 on her claim, and that's to the loan company. Now I'm going to get you back here. Okay, so you're home. It's August. You're watching the babies.
Yeah.
She's going to CVS with the neighbor Mike, whose last name she doesn't know. Move over a little bit that way. Go ahead.
After that, I left again when she got home. And probably later on that night, about 8 o'clock or so, I was coming back because I off and on stayed there. And when I was walking back, all I saw was Andy on the bike with like his back towards me. And Tiffany was straddling the front of the wheels with her hands on the handlebar. And I just saw him push the bike forward, like as if he was trying to, get her off. And she fell like towards the side onto the steps. And then he rode off on the bike.
So your sister was holding him as a prisoner by putting her hands on the bike and straddling the front wheel so he couldn't move.
I wouldn't say holding her as a,
as
a prisoner.
Oh, yes. That was her intention, preventing him from moving, according to you.
After being gone for 3 hours and leaving her with the kids.
They're her kids.
She just wanted her to...
Who was supposed to take care of them? Mary Poppins?
Maybe their father for once. I mean, I had to babysit those kids all the time while she was at work, while he left and went and ran and drank and did drugs with his friends.
She picked them. Sit down.
Ma'am.
Yeah.
I was not holding the handlebar. I was standing there and I was talking to him. I was not
Listen to
holding
me.
it.
Said, this is what she saw. You were the front wheel of the bike and holding on to the handlebars. And she saw him from the rear. Your witness, and she's not mad like you are outside. Your witness said he was trying to get you off. And he did. He started to move the bike forward, and you fell off and hit your head. That's what she said.
But he's saying the situation didn't even happen. He's saying that it never even
This,
happened.
listen to me.
And
Listen
he
to
has
me.
other prior assault history here.
I don't care.
Do you even
That's
know
not
how many
what we're-
assaults he has?
Listen to
Have
me
you?
very carefully. You picked him. Not
Yes,
only did you pick him, you
unfortunately.
picked him to father 3 children.
'Cause I
Not
thought
one.
he was a good guy that
not
was gonna be
2,
there for his
but
children.
3. I'm going to get on your counterclaim. What you're requesting, $2,000. That's exactly what he owes on the car. The 2 of you deserve each other. I am convinced that the 2 of you found each other, that there is somebody up there watching and said, these 2 people really deserve each other. The only people that don't deserve the 2 of you are your 3 children. You better start acting responsibly. You are not acting responsibly, madam.
I take care of my children, and I have since day one.
No, you didn't take care of your 5-month-old. He almost died.
And you know what? They're perfectly fine and well taken care of. I'm the only one supporting him. He hasn't even paid his child support. He's $700 behind him in his child support. $50 a week.
Miss Pinch,
is that much to ask for to take care of your
Miss
kids?
Pinch, it is nothing to take care of your children.
No,
it is nothing.
I love my
$50 a week.
children.
Listen to me.
And there could be nothing better
Don't
than my
speak
children.
over me. $50 a week is nothing to take care of 3 children. But I would think twice about having 3 children with a man who just came out of a 5-year prison term for selling drugs. I would think twice before I hopped in the sack with them and made 3 babies. That's something that you did.
You think sometimes people can better themselves. You give people a chance, unfortunately.
Well, maybe so, but after you got together with him, Miss Pinch, you said to me he was in and out of work, so after you had your first baby, that may have been a mistake, you went and you had 2 more. Goodbye, folks.
Xin chào mọi người. Ở video trước, mình đã hướng dẫn cho mọi người hoàn thành xong được phần kem lớn của chiếc bánh macaron như thế này. Và video lần này, mình sẽ hướng dẫn mọi người móc phần kem nhỏ của chiếc mochi macaron. Để móc phần kem nhỏ, mọi người móc cho mình một vòng tròn ma thuật với 6 mũi đơn. Rồi kéo lên, kết hàng cho mình. Sau đó mọi người móc cho mình hàng móc số 2 với công thức đó là 6 mũi tăng. Sau đó mọi người sẽ móc cho mình hàng móc số 3 với công thức đó là 1x và 1 tăng. Sau khi kết thúc xong hàng móc số 3, mọi người sẽ trượt mũi cho mình. Và hàng này mọi người sẽ móc cho mình toàn là mũi hạ bắp, đặt tên lên 2 chân bính. Móc vào chân mũi tiếp theo một mũi hạ bắp. Mọi người trượt mũi lên cho mình 2 mũi bính và trượt mũi vào chân mũi tiếp theo. Và mình sẽ làm như vậy cho đến khi hết hàng. Rồi vậy là mình đã hướng dẫn mọi người hoàn thành xong phần kem nhỏ trên đầu con mochi.